Travelers on the Omnibus occasionally touches on mature subject matter with mature language. As such, the audience discretion is advised.
To Travelers on the Omnibus, a field trip through nerd and pop culture. I'm trying to sound like I have a gun on me, but it's not working. It didn't work, so there you go. But self-realization of your own stupidity is very important in this world. So my name is James McCarthy.
My name is Ethan Skinner.
I'm Jody Kite.
I'm Brady Davis.
I was fully expecting you to just play the intro during the opening.
You should know not
like
to expect things.
Yeah, don't expect anything. The intro could show up at any time, anywhere. It could show up after the outro.
It could be a mid-tro.
Yeah.
A mid-show.
Yeah, we don't follow linear time here at the Omnibus. It's the
So we
Wibbly.
work
It's
for
an
GW.
abstract
Yeah,
podcast.
we work for GW. I should also probably mention that a little bit later, which I'm going to. Which, by the way, ladies and gentlemen, main topic tonight is going to be the third book in the Chronicles of Amber series, The Sign of the Unicorn. But before we get to that, Ethan, what have you been up to?
That got you off guard, didn't it?
You haven't done that in a minute.
No, maybe we've kind of taken it slow a little bit, just with holidays picking up at both of our works. We've been trying to finish our game of It Takes Two. I feel like we're just about to get to the end of it. It's just been more of that, more Power World with some friends. Honestly, my life's not really exciting right now. So
Holidays. What holidays?
the big one,
The-
Mardi Gras.
The
Mardi Gras holiday.
I thought you were about to say Valentine's Day for you. That should be a pretty big priority on your list.
No, it's just a real murder castle where we're working right now,
Yeah.
because nothing says out of towner like not knowing what to do during Mardi Gras.
Yes.
And yeah, it's not fun, and I'm just gonna leave it at that.
Yeah.
Because multiply that one person by about 1,000.
Yeah.
And multiply that 1,000 by a week and a half.
And then multiply that by Hennessy. Or some other imbibable.
We will leave it at that.
Yes. Now we will
I was
salt
about to say, y'all said y'all leave it at that
now
for
we
like
will salt
3
the
times.
earth and leave it like Carthage.
Yeah.
So there you go.
But no, it's just more Power World.
But
More.
anybody in the hospitality community, particularly here on the Gulf Coast or out in Las Vegas with the Super Bowl, God bless you.
Yeah.
Because they've got the Super Bowl in Vegas. We're going to be seeing the Super Bowl everywhere on the coast, because whether you're at home, you're at a bar, you're at a casino,
You're at
at a
work.
restaurant, you're at work, you're going to be. It's just going to be forced into your eyes.
You're going to hear people asking, what's your favorite shade of red?
In addition, if you're from South Mississippi or anything within, say, 100 miles of New Orleans, welcome to Mardi Gras time.
Yeah,
and
pretty
so,
much.
Yeah, so we have,
yeah.
if you like having regular traffic, don't. It's not going to happen.
Yeah, I had a meeting in Mobile with my job on Monday, and they were like, "Yeah, we gotta get y'all out of here by 4:30 because at 6:30 there's a parade."
Yeah.
So I called Bianca, got some money from the Department of Human Services, like a teaching incentive. Okay. And she's looking at
a bribe.
Yes, a bribe. She's looking at picking up some booster boxes of the first chapter of Lorcana.
Nice.
The only place that I can think that I've called to see if they have it is Jack's.
Yeah.
And I called there saying, like, hey, do you have any Lorcana? He's like, yep. Okay, cool. Do you think I could possibly put one on hold and I can swing by tomorrow and pick it up? Oh, we're not going to be open tomorrow.
Yeah.
Yep.
Okay.
They are open very rarely and at very short amount of time.
But here's the kicker. He said that they're closed all the way till next Wednesday.
Damn.
Yeah.
What the hell?
Because
Yes,
of Mardi Gras.
because of
Yeah,
Mardi
Jacks
Gras.
don't give a shit. They will just take off. He will be like, "Yeah, I'm supposed to open at 11."
They don't give a
but
shit now.
I
They
might-
used to be open.
I might roll up
every
at
day.
12.
They
Yeah.
close at 6.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I didn't know that.
They used to be open every day until like 10 o'clock
Yeah.
at night, and on the weekends.
But that's
till
because like
midnight.
nobody like you
Nobody's
can
in
go in
there.
there and buy stuff and
Yeah.
then leave. Like,
yeah,
there's nothing
nobody's
else
in there
to do.
doing
Yeah.
anything like it used to be.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like I was there not last weekend, but the weekend before on Royal Rumble weekend, specifically Royal Rumble Saturday. They were running a tournament in there. Yeah, they had a tournament going on the other
Interesting.
side, which again I think
surprising.
It's kind of to me, that's the time to run tournaments and do stuff like that. But again, when you can get the time in there. But yeah, no, Biloxi is a minefield.
Yeah.
With parades, especially like Saturday is going to be big. Tuesday, of course, is Gulf Coast Carnival, which is the biggest parade. Maybe not counting Gulfports, but I still think Gulf Coast Carnival is still the biggest one. Ocean Springs did their night and day parades. Those are those. If you're used to regular traffic, you can't. It's going to shut off.
You have to be somewhere at 7. Leave your home at 3. There you go.
Then for people who work in restaurants specifically, after all of that, then on Wednesday you have Valentine's Day.
Yeah.
It's like every couple is coming into your restaurant to eat at your restaurant.
Right.
And they're just bouncing. They're going to have 5 dinners that night to hit 5 separate restaurants.
I was surprised that I was able to reserve a table at a restaurant for Valentine's Day. I was very
surprising.
surprised.
But yeah, so there you go. So It Takes Two and Carnival. Brady, what do you got?
So one of the things that I've been doing is, I forgot about this actually. So in one of the other chats that I have that nobody in this the podcast is in,
that you know of,
unless y'all are hiding. Although they just keep adding people in, so maybe y'all are in there. I don't fucking know. But somebody had mentioned how they were interested in watching the Amy Winehouse biopic that's coming out. And I said I was kind of interested in it until I found out that her dad was very close was very involved in the making of the movie. Because I like the chick who's playing Amy. I like her. I think that she's a good actress. She was in a show called Industry, which is really good. But after I heard that, I like lost all interest. And I had never gotten around. I'd always heard that the Amy documentary that came out in 2015 was really, really good, and I'd never gotten around to it. And I was talking it up to my friends, and they and I figured, well, let me go ahead and watch it, because I mean, I'm sitting here talking about it. Let me actually fucking watch it and not be a poser. So I watched that. It's really fucking sad, but it's good. It's really good, but man, it's sad and tragic.
Very depressing.
Yeah. But yeah, if you watch that and just knowing the shit that we know about her dad and how they all kind of just forced her to keep doing this shit, even though she obviously didn't want to. You can't give, I don't want to do anything to give them any kind of fucking money. But it was a good documentary. If you haven't watched it and you're interested in stuff like that, it was very well done. It's all like the archival footage and with people talking over the top of it. So it's really good. And then I also started watching because I just wanted something that I didn't have to think about too hard to watch. And I'd heard that the show was really good. I started watching Abbott Elementary, which it's basically it takes place in a inner city school in Philadelphia. But it's done like The Office or Parks and Rec. It's done in that style where there's like a camera crew there and they interview people to the side and people look at the camera when people say weird things. And it's a little bit more grounded than either of those shows. Like there's not as big of personalities. Like it's kind of realistic. In fact, it's a little depressing. I was surprised because I thought it was like, I want to watch this a little bit, but I can't watch the whole thing because the shit that they deal with on this show is like real shit that schools and especially like inner city schools have to deal with. So it's surprising that I actually kept watching it, but everything that I've heard about it's very, it held up. It's very, very good. All the characters are really good. It is, like I said, it doesn't have those big personalities like in like a Parks and Rec or an Office or anything like that. But everybody is the characters are really good, and there's some funny jokes in there, and there's some funny everybody's a character. So you have the janitor who's super conspiracy theorist, and then you have the one white male teacher who is like super liberal, But it's a good show. I'd say definitely check it out. I think the new season starts the day that we're recording this Wednesday. I'm still a few episodes behind from getting the second season finished because the first season was only like 13 episodes, and then this last one's the second one's like 20 something episodes. So But it is a really good, and it's really interesting, and it does like the shit that they talk about is like shit that really, all schools, but especially like inner city schools, like it's problems that they deal with. Like it's not
Right.
It's funny when it's just like a parks and service place or some paper company anywhere, but like
Right.
it kind of hits home when you're like, oh shit, damn, I know this shit happened. This
Right.
is problems that people have, so damn. But it is very, very good. I would strongly suggest checking it out. It's funny. Everybody's really good in it. So yeah, check out Abbott Elementary.
For a moment there, they said Alabama something. I was like, no, that's not
Alabama
no.
Elementary.
Oh, I did see somebody apparently stole a 500-foot phone tower in Alabama somewhere. I don't know.
Nice.
That's you can't really put that in your pocket. Like
Yeah.
how do you? You know what? Good job, Alabama.
Also, I already
trying to
told Jay, but Lil Jon is coming out with a guided meditation album. So take of that what you will.
Oh my.
The thing that's coming to mind about the 500 foot tall cell phone tower you said is it's the scene in Despicable Me where the kid is like jumping off the pyramid and he just bounces off it and it's just an inflatable balloon.
And speaking of that, there's a new one coming out this year.
Yeah, I
Yeah,
saw that.
Groove fucks. If y'all were curious
Groove-
about that,
Groove
Yeah.
canonically fucks.
yes,
Mm-hmm.
he has a child.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
Saw the trailer for that. I was like,
I did
what
not.
is happening?
Oh,
Well, it was
wait,
YouTube, so I couldn't really skip it.
This reminded me of something else I saw. Peacock is coming out with a Megamind movie,
Nice.
and it looks awful.
I saw that there was a bunch of people complaining about it online.
That's
No-
the stuff like that is like one and done. Like the first one was
Yeah.
really good.
like you don't have Will Ferrell coming back. You don't.
Well,
have,
of course not.
You don't
That
have.
costs money.
Yeah, no, you don't have any of the original crew. Who is it? David Cross, Tina Fey, I believe.
I can't
Can't remember.
That's one that I actually never watched.
It's actually pretty good.
I've heard it's good. I
I
just
I
never
love.
got around.
I,
to it.
Right.
I like Megamind. This one looks like it is made and animated by Cocomelon on YouTube.
That's a deterrent.
Or it could be the drawing factor it needed.
Yeah.
Nah.
Speaking of that, if you're a parent, don't let your kids watch Cocomelon. It is literally junk food for their brain, and
Yes.
it will slow down them developmentally. There are studies that have been done.
Also, avoid Caillou.
Yeah,
Yeah, Caillou's just a cunt.
Caillou's a little shit.
Any other children's media before we hit Jody?
Bluey, actually,
I've heard good things about
I've heard-
Bluey. I've heard really
there
good things
there have been
about
times
Bluey.
when me and Bianca.
Bluey is like a mutation of Blue's Clues.
No, it's like an
it's its own little
Australian
thing. It's
yeah,
But like,
it's-
Australian animation.
Oh yeah, okay. It's not the blue dog
No.
from
no,
Blue's
no.
Clues.
It
The
has a
dog is
blue dog.
blue, but
Okay.
and
but-
his name
It's a different dog.
Yeah,
yeah.
there have been times when me and Bianca would babysit our nephew, and we would just pop on Blue because that's the only thing he'll respond to.
Yeah.
Mm.
And I've heard it's watchable for adults as
Yeah.
well.
Like,
so-
There you go.
It's not only entertainment for the kids, but
Mhm.
it also has adult subject matter. That
Well, the term
adults
back
can
in the day
understand.
was edutainment because
Yeah.
it was educational entertainment.
Yeah.
yeah.
We have exhausted all forms of childhood educational entertainment. Jody, what are you up to?
So watched a couple of things. I started watching Has Been Hotel. Like 4 or 5 episodes into it, and for a show like that, which we didn't expect it to have music in it. Not only does it has more than what I thought as far as music goes. I thought it was only going to have
every episode has like 2 songs.
2 or 3.
Yeah.
Like I was just like, wow, that's more than I expected. I
Yeah.
expected maybe 1, if that. But it's really nice production quality. The story's interesting. I like the characters. It's very close to the original pilot to a certain degree. And yeah, so I've been enjoying that. It's pretty good.
It is pretty good.
I haven't seen a full episode. However, I see a lot of clips and like short, like 2-minute videos on TikTok, and a lot of the songs are just living rent free in my mind right now.
Yeah, you need to watch the show and get them out of your head.
Yeah.
And then I came across like something showed up in my feed, and I was curious. And it's the title of it is Metropolis 1927 HD remastered full dialogue. So I was like, okay, what does this mean? Right.
Yeah.
So I start watching it.
So
Why do I think this is a prank by PewDiePie?
It's not.
Okay, it's not.
for,
Okay,
for
just
anybody
checking.
who doesn't know, Metropolis is a silent film.
It's a silent film by Fritz Lang from 1927.
You've seen clips of it. You just
Yeah.
didn't know what it was, but it's a silent movie, so that's why the full dialogue is.
It's quote unquote fully colored. It's not like the colored version of it before. Usually you get like one hue. It's like blues and reds and all that. They tried to fully color it or whatever. No, they took all the talk boxes out that they show for silent films, and they overdubbed all the dialogue with the characters, and it was interesting. I wouldn't say I prefer it over the original, because the original is what it is, and it's a piece of art, and you know, it's kind of like you don't translate Akira Kurosawa films for the reason of their to hold the artistic integrity of the original work. However, it is definitely something to watch, to see whether or not people should do this, whether it sounds good or not. Does it really fit? And it's really hard to watch something like that after you've seen the original film like 10 times. And watch it, with English dialogue for this German film that had no dialogue in it whatsoever. With more modern music. Now, there's another thing that was done a few years ago, and I can't remember the guy's name, but there's a shorter version of Metropolis where the guy took like new wave music and put new wave music to it, with everything else that was going on, and all the music kind of fits, sort of like where they would have a piano, and that's actually cooler to me than overdubbing dialogue. So that was the thing, and so I canceled Disney Plus.
Okay.
I have it through Verizon, and I don't know about like how much it costs if you just get it normally, without ads, but I'll tell you that Verizon was charging me $15 a month for Disney Plus without the full package of Hulu and all that.
Wow, that's about what I'm paying for that and Hulu and ESPN Plus. Which I don't use,
so I canceled that. So I don't know how many months I have to wait for that to come off my fucking phone bill. And then I was about to cancel Netflix. I really was, and I went in. I haven't looked at my bill in forever because it just auto charges to my credit card.
Yeah.
And I looked up my account, and I'd forgotten that this had been mentioned like 3 or 4 years ago. I've had Netflix since it started.
Yeah.
I had Netflix when it was just a DVD mail service.
Yeah.
And then, I don't know, like around 2010, 2011, when they started the streaming, whenever it was around that time period, they gave that to you for free if you had the DVD mail service already.
Yeah.
And then eventually they said, like, you could opt out of the one or the other, and it'd still be like $10. It was $10 then.
Yeah.
And I checked my account, and I was going to cancel it because I thought I was getting charged $15 a month, but I wasn't getting charged $15 a month. In fact, it didn't go up to $11 until this year for me because I'm grandfathered in. So I'm not canceling Netflix right now because it's only $11 a month. And so that stopped me from canceling Netflix. I have Hulu for a year because Black Friday, I'd already mentioned that.
Yeah.
And then I have HBO for another 3 or 4 months at $3 a month or whatever it was.
Yeah.
I was going to cancel AMC Plus because I haven't been watching a lot of stuff on there. And then Prime did the thing they always do when you try and opt out of a subscription service. And if you don't quit right now, we'll just charge you $5 for the next 3 months. I'm like, sure. Sure. Instead of
Did
paying
Amazon shake you down?
Yeah.
At the beginning of the month, where they were just like, "Hey, we're gonna start doing commercials on everything now, but you got to pay us $3 if you don't want that." And I was like, "Well, you motherfuckers."
The thing is, currently that doesn't like float into the other subscriptions you have through Prime. So if you have AMC Plus or Shudder or anything like that through Prime, you don't have to watch commercials. But if you watch something through Prime, just from them, you will get commercials. Like when I was watching Has Been Hotel, there was commercial breaks.
There's a couple of like free trials through Amazon that I need to get because there's some Best Picture nominees that are on there.
That's how I watched Yellow Jackets. And I think I said this before, but I subscribed to Showtime, and then immediately after I subscribed to it for free, I went in and unsubscribed, and then took it off the auto renew.
Yeah, Showtime's
and you
on
still have
something on some other. Is it Paramount?
I want to
Plus?
say Paramount because Showtime and CBS are, I think,
Yeah.
under the same
They have
umbrella.
weird packages
they've
on Prime
merged
though.
it.
They'll have like one with like MGM for some reason.
Yeah.
They'll be like, get these two together for whatever price or whatever it is.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's all I've been up to. What about you, Jay? What have you been up to?
Kubinos. So more Age of welcome to the Age of Sigmar seat on the omnibus, and so I ordered it. So Monday, this wonderful thing called Warhammer.com.
Is it wonderful?
It's the only place you can get Warhammer models nowadays. You can get them from other places, but here's the story. So I get an email from Games Workshop saying that, hey, you know that Ragnarok spider you wanted? Well, it's back in stock. It's like, okay, this is pretty cool. It's pretty cool. It's like, okay, purchase. Okay, good one. Okay. Actually, while I'm thinking about it, a friend of the show and fellow podcaster Jason Holder, he's been looking for a thing called Corvus Cabal, which is a group for the slaves to darkness. Don't make that an anagram, or not an anagram, but initialize that, because then you'll be disgusted. But and oh look, they have Corvus Cabal, and they're online only. That's why we can't find it in store. So I'm gonna go ahead and get that to him. Call Jason and say, hey man, check this out. Oh cool, thanks brother. I will get you back. That's cool. That's great. Purchase, put through. It is Wednesday. I am leaving to head to the shop, and there is a Warhammer box on my stoop. And it's like, oh, I didn't know I was getting this because I hadn't gotten the order confirmation yet. That automatic thing that when you hadn't received it. Okay, I open it up, and it's a bit small for the Ragnarok spider because it's a giant spider with a bunch of goblins that can ride it.
Okay.
And it's the Corvus Cabal. I got that thing faster than I get things from Amazon.
Mm-hmm.
Without a shipping notice or confirmation of order.
Next week you'll get a shipping notice on that.
I'll get the shipping notice that it's coming, and then the week after I will be told this item is no longer in stock.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
It's going to be great, but I don't know where the spider is now. Where's my spider, Games Workshop? Thank you for the Corvus Cabal, Jason. It's in my car right now.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, so there was that. Looking forward to playing John tomorrow night with his big pigs. I also through Miniature Market, I got him his 4th big pig, and so he's closing in on his goal of 7 big pigs. And it's gonna be amazing. Gruntas, they're amazing.
Big pigs.
Big pigs, big pigs. And then just
I'll be honest, I haven't been super impressed with them so far.
This is going to sound
There's
stupid.
a myriad of reasons that could be possible.
You have to get them going literally because they have a momentum
they
scale,
have momentum.
which absolutely dictates how they do in combat.
Mm-hmm.
Like if you can get that initial charge 1-2 and then just keep doing damage, they're great. If the brakes ever get pulled, they're hard to get off a board. I think it's like a 4+ save at 12 wounds like per, and he ran a full squad, which was 3 of those things. So that's 36 wounds you got to knock out, which is like put Mystic Shield on them and teleport those boys, and then they do their regular move through that ability that the war boss has, where he gets like 3 of them to move in the hero phase, and then you're just already in somebody's face eating them. That's pretty good, So it's good stuff there.
Nice.
So I'm looking forward to playing that tonight. A whopping 2,000 points, so it's good to go there. And now
I forgot we played a game this past week.
Oh, we did. Yes, we did. Okay, so I'll do that in reverse, and people will be disgusted with us. No, it was 2,000 points of OCR Bony Boys versus a Stormcast Glinty guys, and it was very nice.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Nice.
I like your wall of 30 Mortec
Yeah,
guard.
30 Mortec guard behind a Gothazar Harvester and a Bone Shaper and Catacrosis.
Well, and particularly now with the Lookout Sir rules, where I
Yeah.
can't even target that. Like I can't even snipe him out. Like I can snipe out the Harvester. That's kind of a waste, in my opinion.
It's not the one thing that's really putting forward, like putting the people out there, like bringing them back. Like, between the Catacross can put back three from that on that unit, and then the Bone Shaper, if I roll a 4 or higher, they can put back 3 or 6 if I roll a 4 or higher.
Nice.
To that one thing. So like it's really hard to get them. Plus, when you throw a whole bunch of buffs on them, they're already under a +1 to attack, a +1 to save buff just from Catacross himself. And then you can also do all the other stuff to give them extra saves and shit like that. So
nice.
They're very, very hard to kill.
Mm-hmm. It's very good. I like that. I like good normal battle line choices. It's because that's going to be your bedrock foundation for your group, like for the most part. I like the fact that you don't have to put anything special in the army in order to be able to have that. Like your general doesn't have to be this particular type, or you don't have to be a part of this particular sub faction in order to be able to run it. You can just run them, and they are good. Just by like Catacross makes them better just by themselves. For me, top 3. Yeah, within the top 3 basic battle line in the game, I would put Venari Wardens. I'll put Venari Wardens up in the top 3. I'm not going to necessarily order this group, but between their attack, they have 3-inch attack range, and they're designed to kind of be charged because I think it's +1 to wound and +1 rend when they get charged. Right. So you have everybody fighting, and they're designed to be ranked up next to one another because of the Shining Company rule, so they're harder to hit. I think they're really good there. Another really good choice, I think, is Vindictors for Stormcast Eternals, because they come in with a normal 3+ save, which is pretty hefty, which can go to a 2+ if you manage to get at least a +1 out of it. They do mortal wounds on 6+s. They're really good at again, it's another hold the line kind of unit. With Mortec Guard, I think you can hold the line or you can advance just by the sheer weight and numbers when you get a 30-man unit going with those.
Yeah, I wouldn't put the Mortec that high, especially anymore. They've gotten better. Like it used to be for a pretty good while there, they weren't being taken all that much, because it was just better to take 6 of, two things of 6 Immortus Guard, which is fucking impossible to kill, especially with the old rules of bringing them back. But now that they are super cheap, they are much more usable. But I think
real quick question then, what would you put over them as far as battle line goes?
I'd have to think about that, to be honest. Basic battle line, I mean,
no frills battle. It's not that you can. I could, like, for instance, like I would say Fulminators are better battle line, but I've got to be in Hammers of Sigmar, which is the typical choice for a Stormcast army, but you don't always have that choice, or you're not always going to make that choice. I think Hallowed Knights is a great option for Sigmar. In that case, you can't take them as that.
I mean, if it was like 3 or 4 months ago, I think Zombies would have been better.
Yeah, because that literally.
But those they did some things with them that were broken. But
you could tar pit that, and the way they could chain together was kind of goofy. Yeah, no, I'd give you that. Yeah, that's another good choice.
I don't know. I'd have to think, but I don't put them as high. They're not as good as they used to be. But they're still pretty solid. Again, like because they're so cheap now they're definitely bringable. But you have to you can't just run a 10-man unit. You have to run at least 20, 30 preferably, and 30 is not as expensive as it used to. 30 used to be prohibitively expensive, but now you can get away with it. But I can't. I would have to think about it, but I wouldn't put them as high. They're not like the every single, because when I think of like what's the best stuff, it's going to be the stuff that when you look at like top lists, it's in almost every single one of them, and the Mortec even now aren't in there because you still have the Mortis Guard, the Necropolis Stalkers, which are all conditional. The Morghasts, they're all conditional, but those are like your heavier units that people have started bringing in like quite large amounts nowadays.
Quick shout out to Chaos Warriors with a 3+ save 5+ ward, which I think is pretty cool. That's another unit that I think to me is like in or around top 3 status as far as that goes.
Yeah.
Hey, do we have any feedback?
Gentlemen, we have feedback.
What?
What luck?
Yes. There we go.
Oh wow.
It's been months.
It's been so long.
Yes, from episode 5 of this season, Bus Chatter collecting in as part of hobbies. Our good friend Christopher Kane has written, to the question, what do you like collecting? He has added here 6th scale models and vehicles, statues, video games, board games, and now miniatures. A well-to-do collector. I'd like to point out, we didn't mention it in brief, but let's mention it in brief right now. Sideshow Collectibles.
Yeah.
Sideshow Collectibles, that is literally a business built on the hobby of collecting.
Yes.
And what they do is here's this wonderful thing, and we're going to print X amount of them, and then we're breaking the mold. So it definitely has a finite, limited run. There's not going to be any more of these. And Chris, I know our friend Jason Sims, they have a lot of Sideshow Collectibles, and they're very prominent parts of their room. And they're, to be fair, great looking, good looking stuff. It's not just kitsch.
Some of I've seen Chris's room where he has the vast majority of them, and some he got one from The Witcher 3 that very recently he was setting it up while we were all playing Lorcana and shit. And that shit is gorgeous, like the detail on like the weaving of like the pants and shit, like it looks so good.
Didn't he get like the Infinity Gauntlet?
He has a 1-to-1 scale model of Thanos's Thanos-sized Infinity Gauntlet.
Absolutely gorgeous.
He's got a whole bunch of statues from the Arkham games.
Yeah.
That all look really good. He was putting together a Nightwing from Arkham Knight that's really good.
There's one that I wanted. That's it's the one from Akira Tetsuo and the Kadeda and the motorcycle. Yeah.
My brother, he got the BioShock collection collector's edition,
right?
Which came with statues of like 3 different types of Big Daddies.
Yeah, when they used to do that.
The bunny mask from BioShock Infinite.
Right.
Yeah.
I liked it when the collector's editions had the game inside.
That's also true.
I kick myself for not getting the God of War Ragnarok collectors with the replica Mjolnir.
He has a statue of one of the the ones that shoot the gun, not the drill ones. He also has like a giant fucking Batwing from the Batman 89 movie.
Nice.
Which is really, really sweet.
That's rad.
Yeah, he's got some pretty cool shit.
Absolutely. If we ever do a repeat episode, I'd like to get him on, talk a little bit more about it. Again, like we engaged with a little bit the idea of collecting as the hobby itself. So yeah. So Chris, thank you very much.
He definitely does that.
Thank you very much for your feedback, Chris. And if you would like to leave feedback, passengers, travelersontheomnibus@gmail.com. Again, that is travelersontheomnibus@gmail.com. Jody, where else can they get us?
You can message us directly through Spotify and take part in any polls. Like, I don't know what we have up right now, but I'm sure there's a poll up there somewhere.
Yes, the poll is actually what do you like collecting? And I mentioned games, media, art, things like that. And the other option sends you to our question, and what do you like collecting? So there you go. But again, that's travelersontheomnibus@gmail.com. Ethan, where can they find this podcast?
They can find us at the lovely Spotify, Apple, Google, soon to be YouTube Music, and Amazon.
There you go. The saga. Soon to be Seiya or Seima.
Super Saiyan, man.
Seima. There you go. Ladies and gentlemen, without any further ado, it is time for the main topic. So, ladies and gentlemen, in what is probably the longest tradition here on the Omnibus, which was our 2nd episode ever. But yeah, ladies and gentlemen, this is our review, spoiler-filled review of the 3rd book in the Chronicles of Amber, written by Roger Zelazny. This is Sign of the Unicorn. Again, this is the 3rd book. Last book, we had creepiness from Corwin as he thought he was doing his granddaughter, and not granddaughter, his brother's granddaughter, great-grandniece. And you think that's going to be something important. Well, spoilers, she only shows up once and in a weird death dream sequence, and we'll talk more about that later.
If you say so, I have no fucking idea what happens in that last chapter.
I read this.
That came from a man who read it, by the way.
Yeah.
I read this Sunday and Monday, which is like 3-4 days ago. I don't remember a lot of what I read already. There was
This-
so much.
This is troublesome.
So
It'll be
spoilers.
fine.
We
We
were
have
supposed
books.
to, we were supposed to have this episode last week.
Right.
Oh, they know this. They've listened to the last
they
episode.
listened to
We
the last
mentioned
episode.
that.
Yeah, we passively aggressively talked.
I had to do a second running of it,
Mm-hmm.
and I also had to pull up a study guide.
Well, to make you feel any better, Ethan, I almost broke my finger, and that was the reason why I couldn't.
I am not blaming you.
Yeah, I know,
I'm not blaming you.
Although it is your fault. Yeah, I was going to.
Wait a minute. Okay, there we go.
Yeah, I was going to do all that shit, and I was just like, I don't feel like it. Fuck it, we'll do it from memory.
So how do we start this book? Oh, I know, murder.
In the most in media res that you could possibly. All of these have started in media res, but this is the most in media res that
Murder off screen and in media res
Yeah.
at the same time.
Murder
like,
that
I
you
have-
were only told about.
No fucking because the last book basically started like when the first book ended, like
Right.
it started right then. It's like
Yeah.
no, time has passed. We don't know what the fuck's going on.
Yeah, I got confused. I had to reread the ending
Yes,
of the
it's
second
confusing
book.
is a good way to put this.
Yeah,
this book.
I'm like, wait, hang on. They weren't here whenever the last book ended.
Yeah, I don't expect them to ever like necessarily end exactly when the last book ends, but like
The next one, this third book leads right into the fourth book. There is no stopgap.
Super spoilers.
Jesus.
Yeah.
Sure. Maybe it'll make sense next year.
I'm
when
gonna
we
read.
this.
I'm gonna read the last two lines of the second book and then the first line of the third book, which
Yes.
is the one we read.
Yes.
Okay.
So this is from Guns of Babylon. We moved on through the cavern to the stairs where the dead man lay, and went round and round above him in the dark, and that's where it ends. And then it goes to Sign of the Unicorn, which is the book we read. I ignored the questions in the eyes of the groom as I lowered the grisly parcel and turned the horse in for care and maintenance.
Yep. I will say this one, it feels like he upped his prose a little bit.
His
This
prose
is some
are upped.
very flowery language in
Yes.
this, which I actually did enjoy.
Yeah.
I'm a big fan of the dialogue in this one
Yeah.
also as well. But
Because there's a lot of it
Yeah.
compared to the first book, which was like half of it was inner narrative.
Yeah.
the first chapter is very abrupt, especially compared to the second chapter following in this book, where we find out that Corwin's brother Cain is dead.
Yeah.
Murdered, most foul.
Yeah.
And the only person he pretty much tells about that is the only brother he can trust, which by all other accounts, by all of the other family members, they shouldn't be able to trust him. Random.
Yeah.
Of all people.
Of all people, random. And that's how we do chapter one, except wait a minute, random, there was something you were going to tell me. And then we have our first prog rock album
Yeah.
where mountains of rock are possibly floating in lava as they're crashing towards a weird tower where Corwin and Random's brother Brand is being held and he can't get in because of a weird
Yeah. There's
crystal fucking guardian, maybe a dragon, maybe a basilisk, who the fuck knows?
Yeah, there's a lot of like flashbacks in this one.
Oh,
and it
hell of a
starts
lot.
with Corwin being like, "Hey, basically catch me up on things."
Yeah, it goes with Korn recognizing the entity that killed Cain as one of the things that attacked both him and Random in Flora's home
In the first book.
in the first book.
Yeah.
And Korn's like, hey, these are the same things that was chasing you. What are they? Oh, I forgot to mention that.
Yeah, I forgot
Yeah.
to mention that I went on my own fucking adventure.
Yeah.
That ended right as I called Flora and you picked up the
Yeah.
phone.
Yeah.
Do you remember that from the first book?
Probably
the first
not.
whole fucking book?
Yeah, I cannot imagine these because so give me a second.
Not just even the first book, the first part of the first book.
See,
Yeah,
the
so-
book answers a lot
first-
of questions that
So yeah, Guns of Babylon came out in 1972. So the first book 70, then 72, then 75.
a whole 5 years later.
And it came out in it was this one was serialized.
Yes.
That makes
Yes.
actually a lot of sense.
Yeah, doesn't it?
Yeah, this one was serialized in a magazine.
It's one of the reasons why everyone.
This would have been maddening. I would have been I would not have finished this if that was the case. Like I don't having to wait so long in between, first of all, and then secondly being serialized in a magazine.
That might be the only way you'd be able to. Like, okay, so let's go back to the 70s. Oh my God, I'm sprouting bell bottoms. Anyway, no, like imagine, okay, you've had these first 2 books, and then you have this book, which you're going to come to find out really kind of shapes the cosmology of the Amberverse in a very, very weird and somewhat, again, prog rock album cover ways. But I honestly think that would be the best way to take this is, okay, 1 month this, and then the next month this, because each one of these chapters I feel ends on an ending. Not where you could end the story, but it kind of ties everything up. Particularly when we'll explain fully later when Brand is giving his story to Corwin. They say, "I have other important things to tell you," and then it just goes straight into a prog rock album for the next 2 final chapters. It's so weird.
Yeah, this was a very frustrating book for me. Spoilers, this is my least favorite of the 3 that we've read so far. Maybe reading the next 2 I will like it in retrospect, but it was very confusing and frustrating is a very good word. And I would have lost my mind if I read this, serialized in a magazine. It would have been very, very frustrating. Yeah. So Ethan, back in the day, like magazines would sometimes have stories in them, and you would have to
Sometimes there would be magazines.
Sequentially,
also.
magazines. The paper folded up,
and depending on the popular,
they were like blogs that you got every month.
Sometimes the
they were
magazine
like
would come out,
blogs that you printed out and then folded and stapled together.
and sometimes they would come out monthly, but sometimes they'd come out every other month.
I recognize them as the pieces of the very thin paper books that my mom rolled up to like get in your room, clean your room, and do your chores.
Are you admitting to
Smack
being
you with paper books?
Like rolled up magazines.
as opposed to metal books? or full on wooden books?
No,
or God forbid
she used papyrus.
she used papyrus, whooping that ass with that papyrus. True Egyptian queen there.
Yeah, I don't even remember. We made
Let me
Serialized.
let me start with this. Where is Cain? Under a layer of sod near the grove of the unicorn. That looks suspicious right there.
Yeah.
That's not Jody saying that's suspicious. That's Brand saying that's suspicious. I love the dialogue is punchier. It's very fluid. It's very like we now have these characters established, particularly Corwin. I would also say particularly Random as well, because he's a good chunk of the first book.
Random and Corwin are the 2 that
Right.
that you get their personalities the best.
Remember it out loud.
Yeah, and so there's
It is very hard to tell the difference between all of the other ones, to be honest.
That is true.
Except
Gerard's very easy. Gerard's like, I will take care of it, and then he just does in a very shouting and concerned way.
the one sister that Corwin wants to have sex with. This man is he's your hero, and he has some sexual
Corwin
proclivities.
is the protagonist in this.
Man, this is 70s as fuck.
It's pretty 70s.
Jesus Christ. I'm not
He
joking.
says that about Llewellyn, right?
No, he says that about Deidre.
About Deidre?
Deidre.
Okay.
Deidre, he says several times, "Oh my God, if she only wasn't my sister."
There's a sentence in
This
this
book-
story guide that I found.
And Game of Thrones is why I'm glad I was an only child. Because that would have been a lot of pressure.
Yeah, fair enough.
Just Jesus Christ.
Game of Thrones did go a lot of way with us being like, is incest all that bad? Yeah.
So in this,
Glad we came to a consensus on that.
Yeah, I didn't want to leave the listeners hanging.
And Game of Thrones was like, we have one brother and sister situation. Why not have another somewhere else?
Why not have
and
a whole,
another?
Why
and,
not have a whole family
and another?
based off
yeah,
incest?
the next show, it's just all of it.
Yeah.
It's just all they're
Incest
all
and-
related. Every
Incest
single
and
one.
dragons. Incest and dragons is all it is.
the sentence in this study guide I have is, we get the idea that Corwin is sweet on his sister Deirdre.
He's sweet
we
on
get
her.
the idea.
Yeah, he's gonna take her down to the
Yeah.
pharmacy for a phosphate.
And Guns of Avalon, he's like, man, this chick. Oh
I need
wait, we're related. Well, I mean, it's probably distant. Like, whoa, bro.
Yeah.
No,
Yeah.
it's not distant. It's telling you that she's
Yeah.
that she's your brother's.
Do you have the same
daughter.
mother and father?
Yeah.
Yes. Then she's your sister.
Take her
Jesus
to
Christ.
the malt shop. Everything will be fine. Get a
So
phosphate.
we were doing a really bad job.
We're
of
doing a
explaining
terrible
this.
job.
Well, it don't explain itself all that well, to tell you the truth.
This is actually like very accurate to how I felt with reading this.
It is properly chaotic.
So Cain's
dead.
Cain's been killed, and they tricked him because
He got
in
no-
very poor handwriting that Random could understand was not Corwin nor Cain's handwriting, but apparently those two couldn't see each other's handwriting. They were both written notes that saying, "Hey, meet at this tree," and at this specific time. And apparently Corwin got there quicker than he was supposed to because he saw a dude killing Cain. The weird dudes with spikes on their hands. I don't know. And then he was like, well, hey, you've seen these guys before. Everybody's going to think that I just killed Cain, even though I didn't kill Cain, but they're going to believe it because we all think that each of us is trying to kill each other, which we are.
So now we have to figure out, okay, so who's the one that actually killed Cain and who's the one that's trying to blackmail me into thinking that everyone else thinks that I killed Cain.
Everybody killed everybody or tried to kill everybody and trying to
just lock them all.
Well, and also more. Actually, they maybe were trying to kill me too because I showed up, and maybe they were just going to kill me too. I mean,
but later on, wait a minute. You mean they weren't trying to kill me? There was this part of a ruse to make sure that I was safe somewhere.
Goddamn, this
and
gets
where's
so
Dad
fucking-
at? Is Dad okay? What's happening with Dad right now?
So then we get Random's story,
Yeah.
where
which, if you thought the pace of the thing was dictated by chapter 1, chapter 2 throws that right out the fucking window because
Yeah.
chapter 2 is like about almost 2.5 times the size of that first chapter of this book.
Yeah.
And it's almost all like narrative.
It's narrative and it's abstract narrative of how he's using shadow to get to his brother because of all
goes
the brothers.
long enough that I forgot that Corwin is actually the point of view character in all of this.
Yeah.
Like it goes long enough.
Yeah,
where
he hands it off to Random for like a whole chapter.
Yeah.
And that chapter goes on a long time.
I will say, Random doesn't feel as different from Corwin enough. This could have been really cool, I think, but like he feels a little different, but he doesn't feel different enough. I don't think he goes for like pages just talking about how he went someplace just to drum. Like I'm just like, damn, man, we didn't need all that.
My own rock bore me away slowly, steadily. The entire pattern was drifting. The guys from the tower then went into a huddle and decided to pursue me.
Yeah, so he gets called by Brand, who's been missing this whole entire time from the other, from the other books.
Well, and not just that.
Through his trumps.
Not through the trumps, which they use to communicate with one another. He literally calls them through a card, like I think a Jack of Diamonds.
Yeah, Jack of Diamonds, he said. So he goes out trying to find Brand because he's farther in shadow than most of them ever go. He's further from Amber. So he tries to go there, and he gets pretty close, except that there's this giant monster thing that attacks him, and then the people start chasing him, and the chase is actually pretty cool because he's like a chase sequence. He finds out that they can travel through shadow as well. So because normally with them it's just okay, I'm running away and I'm just going to change shadow and they can't follow where I'm going.
But they can.
But he keeps changing shit and then like, oh, they keep coming, so they can move in shadow too.
It's his truly oh shit moment, and he's trying to scramble.
Yeah, but he's like creating a shadow where there's a rock that's coming in and it's gonna smash all of them and all this shit. But they keep fucking coming.
My favorite part is he ends up in California and he goes into a bathroom and they're just there. It's like, okay.
Yeah, he was like, okay, I'm going to the airport because I'm gonna go see. This is where Flora is. I'm gonna go see her. And then he goes, well, let me straighten myself up. This is back in the 70s when it took nothing to get on an airplane, nothing at all. You were gonna get hijacked, probably.
Yeah.
This
More
is the
than
golden
likely.
age. You were gonna get taken to an airfield. All the terrorists were gonna take you out, and then we're gonna blow up the plane. and then that was it. You got a little adventure. So he's like, I'm gonna go. Jesus Christ.
I didn't think we were going to hit this part of American and or world history.
Yeah.
Where you could just get on a plane and you just could.
Yeah.
It's like,
Am I reading the book again? Because that's what this feels
here's
like.
25 here's 25 ducats. I would like to go to blank, and then
that's
you just
basically
end
how
up
it
there.
was.
That's where it is.
So, and then the thing just jumps him jumps out of a stall and attacks him.
I thought it was like a bunch of them just
it
came
might
out of the
have been a
stalls.
bunch
It
of
was
them.
like in my head, I had the Warriors, the bathroom scene from the Warriors where they're just like fighting everybody.
About what page is that, Brady?
I have no fucking idea.
So is that before or after he gets in contact with Julian?
I don't even remember that part, to be honest.
It was about that time that I heard my name spoken and felt the touch of the trump once more, and I drew it. It was Julian. Random, where are you? Pretty far from Amber, I replied. Why? Have any of the others been in touch with you? Not recently, but someone did try to get a hold of me yesterday. That was me. We have a situation here that you had better know about. Where are you? I asked. Julian said, in Amber. A number of things have happened recently. That's a little vague.
Yeah.
Thanks, Julian. Like what? Well, Dad's been gone for an unusually long amount of time.
See, if this had been now when this would have been, it's like a number of things have happened. And if you want to know, spend $3.99 on this DLC because that's how it'd been sent to you.
Dodd's been gone that long before.
Dodd's been gone.
Dodd's been gone for a while. But not without leaving instructions and making delegations. He always provided those in the past. True, but how long? Over a year. I knew that he was gone. Gerard mentioned it some time ago. And then add some more time to that. I get the idea. How have you been operating? And it just keeps going.
Yeah.
It just keeps, the conversation just keeps going. We think Dad is dead. Dad, how? Why? Yeah.
Like, in both of the other ones, I was very much impressed with. These are like just over 100 pages, and he fits so much into them.
Mm-hmm.
And this one feels like 100 pages, and it
110 pages exactly.
It's 110 pages, and it feels like 500 pages.
It does feel longer than it should.
It feels meandering. Again, like there's a lot of things that I liked about this, but there's quite a few things that I did not like about this one. Yeah, shit.
Let's go to chapter 3.
So yeah, he finds out, and it just catches back up to where we saw Random.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, basically the start of 3 is like, wow, cool story, bro. And then now where we go from here?
I do like this. So chapter 3, we go back to Corwin's perspective.
Yeah,
and he goes, to paraphrase Oedipus, Hamlet, Lear, and all those other guys, I wish I had known this some time ago. Like I said, there's some really good lines.
There are some good lines.
There's some of the best lines that I've read
When we get to
so
chapter
far.
10, I want to read that first part of chapter 10. Yeah.
All you.
But yeah, so he's trying to like figure out how like if Random's like telling him the truth.
Right.
There's a lot of people telling Corwin stuff and him trying to figure out if they're fucking telling him the truth.
one thing I like about Random as a character is he seems too dumb to lie.
Yeah.
It really feels like he's not that dumb. He's dumb, but he's not that dumb. He's not smart enough to lie and get away with it. It's what it feels like. However, that's just the way we perceive him as a character.
Yeah.
Or I perceive him.
Like we everybody that we see is through Corwin's eyes.
Mm-hmm.
And a lot of this is just what people have been telling Corwin.
Right.
Because he's been out of this.
Because he's been out of
Yeah.
it for so long.
Like
so
he went missing before his father went missing.
yeah.
And
So
that's
we find out
that's a big portion of this.
And he was missing for like a century or something. Like Corwin was out for a while, right? Or
he was on what would be considered our Earth for a very long time.
For a very long time. Like not the amnesia part, but just being gone from Amber for a long time.
Well, he had a kind of amnesia, right? Or what did he
I've
just
always
get it
remembered
until
it.
the
I've always remembered it that it started with the plague back in the days.
That's
of the
right.
plague.
That's
Yeah.
right.
And then
He
it just
mentioned that in the
and,
first
like,
book.
It's not just that he was gone for a century, although with the way they manipulate shadows and time, it could be that it could have been a century, or it could have just been like
time in one place is different than time in another.
when you have the ability to pull reality around you and shape it the way you want it to. What is time and space? Legitimately. So I think that's something that you can ask that question in the back of your head, but if you put any kind of thought into it, again, when you're dealing with literally with reality benders, you can't do that. I don't think. Like for them, a century. So for them, maybe 100 years for them, and then also they talk about 100 years like, oh, that was a bit of time. Not like. I think between the four of us, maybe one of us will see 100, whereas like the rest of us are just going to be gone in ash by that point. So yeah, for that's at a period of time that rarely humans live to see from the start to the end too.
Yeah.
So
yeah. So yeah, where he's trying to figure it out.
because he has to figure out who's behind the murder, while at the same time juggling. I can't be initially thought of as the person who did this because then no one will find out who did it.
Yeah.
And also my position in Amber will be completely Corwin's selfish in this through to the end as well.
Yeah, we also find out like he hasn't like taken the crown or anything.
No.
He's running Amber, but he's not like
He's not the official.
He hasn't crowned. He hasn't pulled an Eric and crowned himself.
Yeah, he's effectively the regent right now.
Yeah, chapter 3 is just like all over the place. Well, I guess that's most chapters in this book.
Chapter 3, a lot of it's taken place of. So we find out about the Jewel of Judgment, which is another, not quite a MacGuffin, but another thing that we didn't know about.
It's another tool in the toolbox of the Amber.
It's Oberon had first, which is their father.
Yeah. And most of this chapter is him like going and activate, like he walks the pattern again to activate the jewel,
trying to attune to it.
So. Yeah. Well, it's one of those things. Is like I can't put this off any longer.
Yeah,
because a lot of, to me, I think Corwin acts best when his back is against the wall. Like when he doesn't have the time to think, he actually thinks probably the clearest whenever he is
on
thinking.
the fly, like split second decisions.
He's very good tactically. It's his strategy that you can come into question, his long-term thinking.
Let's get creepy for a second.
Okay.
Back to Corwin being creepy again.
Okay.
This is chapter 4.
No.
Random and Flora were waiting in my quarters where I returned. Now I'm going to skip to where he says, pale gold her hair. She had cut it, but retained the bangs. I couldn't decide whether I liked it that way or not. All right, bro. I need you need to calm down.
I will be. So this is a very 70s thing. Zelazny doesn't really write women characters at all. Really. Like, I can tell you more about.
I like Fiona, but we'll get to more of that here in a little bit.
But they're kind of and in fact it kind of stuck out because he was like, because there's a part later where they're talking about they're explaining to the other guy that he met in the last book, starts with a G, can't remember, Ganelin, about succession. He's like, well, what about the women? Oh, they don't matter.
Yeah.
I was like, oh, seriously? Okay.
I guess I kind of it kind of makes you think better of Ganelin. It's like, well, what about they got to and Corwin's like, nah,
no,
nah,
something like they have neither the ability nor the something to rule. And I'm like, well, Jesus Christ. But again, this is like
though I would argue that is a short-sightedness of Corwin's, and it's one of the reasons why Fiona works.
Yeah.
He says after the description, he goes, excuse me for staring, but the last time that we met, I was unable to see you.
Well, I think he means that he didn't remember who he was.
Oh, I mean, that could be true.
There is a connotation in there that goes to creepy, but at least in that notion,
again, we're still getting a little bit. So he walks the pattern to activate the Jewel of Judgment, and the Jewel of Judgment lets him control.
Well, and also the last time he would have seen her, he was blind.
Oh, that's true.
That's
Yeah.
what it
That's
is. Yeah,
true.
he was blinded
Because he
because
was in
all of the family was there.
Was there at
and-
the
and he was
coronation.
blinded.
and he was
But
like,
it was at the there was like that first anniversary. They brought him out and paraded him around. And he was
oh
still
yeah,
blind.
that's right, because he was there for a while.
Yeah, yeah. So the Jewel of Judgment, the only thing that they know for sure that it does is it controls the weather in the area around Amber. In fact, in the first book, Eric was able to like hit him with lightning bolts and shit. So he was like, it was a really cool thing because like chapter 3 ends with him like, and then I called the storm, and I was like, oh, that's pretty cool,
Right.
But then we don't like actually experience it. It's just like,
Yeah.
like we get to the cusp of something cool, and then he's like, no, we're not gonna do all that.
It's like in 70s TV shows, like, check out this cool thing I'm about to do. We'll be right back after a word from our sponsors. And then and come back and, oh, that was fucking cool what you did. Oh, God damn it.
I just killed the dragon.
Yeah.
You missed it though.
Yeah.
They're trying to save money.
Paper
on the
mache
budget.
everywhere.
yeah.
Paper mache everywhere.
So what happens next? He's talking
So,
to several
so
of
you
them.
have the Flora.
Random and Flora.
scene.
Yeah, he's talking to Random and Flora. I don't know, y'all talk. I can't remember what comes on. What happens?
Well,
in this part.
the description is at the very beginning that I just read, where they start going into, you were in a position to call.
Oh,
for,
he's basically asking her like, "Hey, what was up with you with watching me?"
Right.
Like he's
asking her.
These
what
first
her
few
role
chapters
is.
are basically him playing catch up,
trying
that
to
he
figure
wasn't
out
able
what
to-
happened before the first book.
I use the
Yeah.
term unnecessary hole filling. I think from like it's weird.
It's
for
whole-
the
it's-
for the
it's-
reader, I don't think it's unnecessary, but I think for Corwin
My
it's
problem,
necessary.
my problem is it's inelegant whole feeling.
Yeah.
like it's just
Yeah, that's a good way to put it. Yeah.
here. I'm just going to tell you everything that again, like this entire book is tell don't show, which is why it frustrates me.
This entire the whole book answers questions that not only did Corwin have, but we also had in the first one. Like, okay, so how exactly?
Again, like I can't think of an elegant way to catch us up with all this shit. But again, I'm also not writing books. Again, like I like the first 2 books, and I didn't like this book, but I do like something. I like the story altogether. So like I'm not just shitting. I'm gonna shit on this book a bit, but I'm not gonna say like this is like the worst thing I've ever read.
She goes into Eric's involvement with the situation, and he says, "Did Eric say what time I had been taken to the hospital?" Referring to when he was being kept in the hospital at the beginning of the first book.
Yeah.
No. When I was with you, why did you try walking back to Amber rather than using Eric's trump? And she says, I couldn't raise him, which means you couldn't get a hold of him through the trump. And then Corwin goes, you could have called someone else to bring you through, though. Flora, I think you're lying to me. And there's like an exchange of her trying to, sound like she knows what she's talking about, and she might be. And him still being very, very suspicious of her.
Yeah.
As well.
And is this where we find out that that he crashed his car because somebody shot his tire out?
We
And-
find out a lot about that wreck in all sorts of weird and different ways.
Yeah. The problem, so this was kind of a simple thing, and now there's like 3 layers because by the end of this, we find out that there's like several factions.
There's a lot going on
happening, doing their own separate thing, but then it converges kind of with Corwin, which is very frustrating and confusing. But yeah.
Well, Corwin effectively is a monkey wrench that one of the factions couldn't plan for because they weren't aware of where he was in space and time.
Yeah, because Eric had gotten so it was like Eric got rid of him and put him on this Earth, and he got basically a kind of amnesia there, but then he got another amnesia through the wreck,
right?
And and before that they had even put him in an insane asylum.
Yeah. And then he got out and immediately got a car, and then that car immediately crashed.
And that car crashed. Because right now we only know like, okay, there's Eric's faction and then there's Corwin. Like that's all that we know right now. But there's like several layers that get wrapped up.
And really, it's not so much Eric's faction as that like it seems like everybody fell in line with Eric.
Yeah.
Because Eric was Eric had like the one truest claim without Corwin there,
Yeah.
because we find out something else, but that requires Bran being found. So eventually, two things need to happen. First, they need to give Cain a proper burial, and two, the family has to come together about the Bran situation.
Yeah.
One of my favorite parts of this book is Gerard and Corwin going to get the body.
By the end of this, like I really like Gerard.
Gerard's
Yeah.
like the only one that I feel, if he has an ulterior motive, he'll even put it aside because no, we're family. Goddamn it!
He's very
Yeah.
sensible.
Benedict ran away from the family.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And Gerard's the only one that's like, oh, it's Brand. We got to say, but we'll get to that. But they're going to go dig him up, and then all of a sudden, Gerard just beats the shit out of Corwin.
Yeah, they just stop on the side of the
Yeah.
road. And
Yeah,
it's like, hey,
and Corwin,
we're gonna fight.
Yeah,
And
like
it's-
he forces Corwin to get in a fight with him.
No, and I swear to God, if I found out that you killed Cain, I'm gonna fling you off this mountain like I'm about to do right now. And he flings off, and like one of the last words, right as he's like going over the mountainside, is "Not guilty, Gerard." And it's like, he was faking it, and he pulled him back. But
Yeah.
yeah, it's like I just want you to know what I'm capable of.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Never
and this
fucking
was
forget.
all. So this was also a little confusing. So maybe y'all can clear it up. Like apparently, like through the Trumps, all of the family witnessed it. Like
Yes, yeah,
That's what.
and
Yeah.
it
That's
somehow
what it,
did like a binding thing where if anything happens, then he still, I don't know, like Corwin still dies or something like that.
Well, the binding thing plays more into the second time a whole family is together in the way when like we'll hold off on that for a second. But yeah, but basically it's like it just went, and he's actually, and Gerard's telling everybody else in the family like, and if I find which one of you motherfuckers killed him, I'm fucking coming for you too. And he's basically like effectively the sheriff of the family.
yeah,
Is the best way to put this.
yeah,
as
that
far-
fight's like 3 pages long, by
Yeah.
the way. It's
Yeah.
very descriptive.
yeah. He goes into quite some detail.
Yeah, like if it had been swords, it would have been one thing, but because I'm fighting him, it's like, oh, I
Yeah,
don't
at one point, someone almost lost an arm.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, they basically
It's violent, and
basically
it's,
if anything happens, yeah, you cannot rearrange. You cannot arrange my removal now without revealing your intentions to the entire family. That way, if I die forsworn, the promise can still be kept. So yeah, basically, if Gerard dies in any untoward way, Corwin dies too.
Here's another cool line too. This is well, they're still, they're tussling or whatever. He goes, "You may be as innocent as you say, or as guilty as possible. Look down, Corwin. That is all. Look down at the black road. Death is the limit of the distance you travel, if that is your doing. I have shown you my strength once again, least you've forgotten. I can kill you."
Yeah, and Corwin was like, he made me put down my sword. I'm not gonna win this fight.
Yeah.
He was like, with my sword, I could keep him at bay, and he'll make a mistake, and he'll eventually fuck up. But
Yeah.
like, I can't beat this man hand to hand. So we often know that, like,
what a fucked up family. Can I say that?
Oh,
real quick?
yeah.
Like, wow.
well, yeah, but they all will just, and later on they all just admit, yeah, oh yeah, if we like pitted armies against Benedict, like, there's no possible way that we could win. Like,
Yeah,
absolutely,
right.
Yeah.
it is impossible for
Well,
any
again,
of us.
like Benedict was.
We
the-
could all gang up on Benedict and we would still lose. Like,
Right.
that's- they're just all like, oh, okay.
Yeah, well, you get to the like. Just back to the second book, the reverence that Corwin puts on Benedict,
Yeah.
like all the time, like not just like as a leader of men, but also as just his, like the brother. It's like, I know he's not in the. I
Yeah.
know he's not in this for this.
Yeah.
Like that's what, and he knows that.
Yeah. So yeah, they have a really cool scene where they actually get to the Grove of the Unicorn and they see a
They
unicorn.
see the unicorn.
Right.
And
That's
that brings a
little bit
level
later.
of peace between the two of them.
Yeah, it was a very cool scene.
But yeah,
And that also establishes the unicorn a little bit more, especially later on.
Yeah, it's an omen.
Yep.
around chapter 6, right at the end of chapter 5, beginning of chapter 6, Gerard kind of pops in and
This is another thing that annoys me. Because all of the because he's finally like they're finally all the family is together, like he's brought them all together. He will oftentimes like explain the men in the family by
Right.
how they are. Like sometimes he will explain like their look, but he will go like oh, he's like sullenly of this, and he's like making a cruel jab or something like that. The women, he almost always will. Most of the time, Zelazny will. This is exactly how they look, and again, this is 2024 eyes with 1970s. So like, I understand this.
We're almost properly 50 years since the
I'm not
publication.
saying that like he should be canceled or anything, but it is something that like in today, reading something like this today, like you notice these things. It's hard to not notice them.
So Corwin brings up trying to find Bran.
Yeah.
And he brings up to the entire group, well, most of the group anyway, about the Trumps, and they're like, we've tried that already. He's like, yeah, but have you tried all of us trying together?
And they're like, oh,
using Bran's Trump.
Is that before or after Ganelin shows up?
I believe that's before.
Yeah. Yeah, because chapter 6 starts with them in the library.
There's also a very cool scene and with Corwin and Ganelin at Corwin's tomb.
Yeah.
Which,
they do.
I just like the notion of having a couple beers with one of your best friends at your gravestone. And throwing the empties
that
where
happens
you're buried.
even before
hey,
they go.
Hey, this thing, they all thought I was dead.
Yeah.
That happens before they even he gets into the fight with Gerard. That's chapter 4.
And I like that. And let me say this for Ganelin. Ganelin, to me, his purpose in this is to be that person outside of the family that Corwin can bounce ideas off of, and then also provide ideas to Corwin because
that he would never even think of.
The notion of being so far in the forest you can't see the trees. Not obviously the metaphor of you're so far into the problem that you can't see the solution out it or the way around it. So you need someone like a Ganelin who's not an Amberite, not a member of the royal family, someone that has enough intelligence to be able to grok the situation, while at the same time not fully understand the whole thing because he never can.
Someone that has no stake in what's going on.
Oh, I would say he has a significant stake in what's going on, because if they're coming after Corwin, they're coming after Corwin's friends. Yeah. I wouldn't say that he doesn't have a stake. What I'm saying is he is looking at it with eyes that aren't so buried in it that he can't see what's going on around it. And I think Ganelin as a character, I think Zelazny writes him very well. And I think he is a very important and a very good part about this entire book.
So an interesting thing, because like this chapter 6, I actually really like.
Yeah, chapter 6 is kind of action packed.
But before he even like brings up the whole, hey, let's all use our Trump at the same time to try and find Bran.
Right.
They play this little game basically of like, Corwin's on this side and Julian's over on this side.
Yeah.
And some of them, and when they walk in, some of them move towards Corwin and pour themselves some wine, but some of them stay around Julian, and some of them are in the middle, and then Corwin goes to talk to them, and then Julian intercepts, and it's but then like the person goes, well, no, I actually want some wine. So they play this little game of who's on whose side. That's actually pretty interesting. And then when all of that's said and done, then he finally brings up like, hey, this is why I gathered us all here.
Yeah. Well, and specifically, before going into the getting Brand, he had random tell your story. Yeah. And he lets that play out.
Luckily, we didn't get the same chapter over again.
Yeah. Well, they didn't have copy paste back then.
Yeah.
So it's like, I'm not writing this again. Just keep going.
Yeah, and we get Corwin saying like why he had Brandon tell them everything, and how he's watching everybody to see their reactions.
And he also mentions how it's kind of futile a little bit, like the general thing of okay, they're actually believing him, but like for the most part, like trying to piece out like trying to get information from like a tell that they might have, it doesn't happen because they're almost so programmed in how they react to kind of stuff like this. So I thought that was a unique look inside the family dynamic there.
Yeah, the family dynamic is like one of the most interesting things in the whole series. We finally learn more about Bran. I don't think he's ever talked about Bran except that he's like missing. Like that's all that we know. And that one time that he contacted him, right?
I think he contacted him.
In the cells.
I think it was the cell. If it wasn't in the cells, it's when he got his trumps and was with Bless.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's like,
'cause there was something
how
where he
you
got-
doing? Captured.
in
It's
the-
like, Eric must have captured him too. We find out no.
Yeah, I can't remember that because there was also a moment where he feels the presence of his dad, and that might have been, I can't remember when all of
Yeah,
that
because
happened.
he mentioned that like at that time that I reached out to him, I feel like he was saying
Yeah.
yes to me would be okay for this.
Right.
That I think was in the thing. The other one might have been, but all we know. So he talks a little bit about Bran. Bran's a little bipolar, it seems. I don't think that word really existed in the 70s. But
The word manic depressive though comes.
but the way he
into
talks
play there.
about it, it's like this dude's a bit bipolar.
Right.
Probably needs some lithium. He'll be all right. So yeah, he talks about how he's kind of sometimes he could be like the most reasonable person that you've ever met, and then sometimes he's just impossible to deal with. And then they all start focusing on Bran's trump, and they all make contact. They see him in a cell,
Shit
and
gets weird.
Still in that tower. That
and then they're like,
random-
"Oh shit, we did it!" And then Gerard,
And
like,
then Gerard's
Gerard's just
Gerard is auto.
Leroy Jenkins into
Yeah,
that
I'm
motherfucker.
So, I'm coming, Brad.
It's like, oh, it would have been nice for us to did nobody knew. We
Yeah.
could have come up with a plan.
Right.
You would think like, oh, the rest of this will just gonna be like them figuring out, okay, well, how do we get in there? What do we do?
Yeah, and he's like hacking at the wall.
Gerard's just like, nope, I'm
Yep,
grabbing
the
an
brain.
axe and I'm running in.
Gerard leaped to his feet, knocking over his chair. He dashed across the room and snatched a great battle axe from the pegs on the wall. He slung it at his wrist, holding the trump in the same hand. For a moment, he froze, studying the card. Then he extended his free hand. Suddenly, he was there, clasping onto Bran, who chose that moment to pass out again. The image wavered. The contact was broken.
Yeah, so while this happened, like they were kind of losing contact, and Gerard jumps through. So then they grab Gerard's trump,
Right.
and they use him, and he's just like hacking at a fucking chain on the wall.
And then dudes come in to try to stop that, and like Gerard's like, nope.
Yeah,
The door, I shouted.
Yeah.
yeah. So they're all trying to figure out what to do.
There was a blur of
Random
movement.
jumps in as well.
Yeah, Random knelt within the tableau, his right hand clasped with Bran's, his left holding his chair before him like a shield, the legs pointing outward. He sprang to his feet and rushed the attackers.
This is a pretty cool turn phrase. Random produced a dagger and left it in a nearby stomach. That's pretty. That's pretty
Yeah,
good.
that's
That's a good
good.
one.
That's good.
That's some good stuff. But like this is like super action packed. Like this was the
Oh, yeah.
easiest to read chapter.
Yeah.
Because you're like, oh shit, what's happening?
Well,
Right.
it starts out with like family intrigue.
Yeah.
Right.
And then it breaks out into a fight, and then it turns into a mash episode.
Yeah,
Right.
it's like he fucking used all of the juice that he had on this one, and then he didn't have any left for the other ones. Yeah, but yeah, they beat all of the motherfuckers back, and then Random and Gerard get Bran through. Gerard's holding them, and they look, and there's a fucking knife in his kidney.
Yeah.
You're like, oh shit.
And Deirdre and Flora are there as well.
Yeah, all
Yeah,
the
all of
the
them are
girls
there.
are there as well.
Yeah.
Llewellyn's there.
Yeah. Yeah.
They get him out of there, basically.
And then Gerard becomes the surliest nursemaid ever. Where
Just whisks him away to a room.
yeah, he won't let anybody touch him. Touch
Not even
Bran.
to another room. He puts him on the couch and he said, I'm going to be right here.
Yeah, he gets a chair and sits down. And is like, I will be
Bring
here.
me some IVs. Bring me some fucking medical equipment. I'm going to fucking stand
They
right
go
here.
into a whole long thing where Corwin has this like side thing where he's like, yeah, we all know
We've
about,
all had medical
we've
training.
all had
have
medical
medical
training.
At some
well,
point.
again, to be fair, if 100 years is a short time for these
Yeah.
folks, yeah, I bet you they could build a fucking space shuttle.
And they also, because they can just go to any reality that exists, they all just like to go to different, and because they are, long lived, seemingly like can live forever possibly, as far as we know so far. But so you're gonna get bored, so you just go places and learn things. Like
I'm bored this summer. Let me get my PhD real fast.
Yeah. I'm gonna go learn medicine.
Yeah.
Now I'm gonna have to change it because when I get back to Amber, things don't work quite right.
Yeah.
but-
Remember, gunpowder doesn't work.
yeah.
You got to get special oils
Yeah.
and then put them and then you go to actual Earth and you put the oils in. But monsieur, this won't fire. No, don't worry, they'll fire.
Yeah.
It'll be fine.
No. Trust me. This is how it works.
Yeah.
Then we get to another interesting question after, everything gets, pretty much resolved and they patch them up or whatever, and they're having conversations amongst themselves. And I believe it was Corwin and Gerard. Whose prisoner do you think he might have been? I asked. One of us.
Yeah.
And then it's mentioned.
Well, it's also the question of they're like, Gerard's like, I did, because the whole reason that Gerard like says I will kill anybody who comes near him is like, he's like, I know for a fact I didn't knife him. Nobody got close enough to knife him.
Right.
I made sure that nobody got close enough. So that means it was one of you.
One of us. Yeah.
So none of you get near him.
Right. That's why he's very protective. Yeah.
So now we have the question of not just who has been keeping Brand, but who just tried to kill him.
Brand.
And we have, whoever had tried to just kill him probably at least had something to do with
Something
him
to do
being,
with
His prison.
with his being imprisoned.
Yeah.
So yeah, they all start accusing each other. Of course.
There's a lot of finger pointing going on.
Of course, Julian's a twat.
Yeah.
And starts accusing everybody. He's not too far off the mark. That leads us to chapter.
I would really like to.
Yeah,
if
there's
it's
something
not in
else.
here, I would like to talk about the interaction between Fiona and Corwin, because again, and I would agree with you up to a good point, especially with Flora. Flora, like I wonder why, if she's named Flora because of flower, because she's wilting all the time. That's just a kind of a little metaphor.
Yeah,
right
she's
there.
incredibly meek.
Yeah, and like, whoever the strongest is in the family, she's the one that just ponies up to that one.
Yeah.
But Fiona, you can tell, has a bit of independence to her, and in this family, that makes her dangerous.
Yeah.
And her conversation with Corwin, to me, isn't just about her informing her brother, though I think that's part of it. I think the true intention there is, at least from Zelazny's point of view, is let me give you another person to think about as far as the intrigue goes. And I think Fiona was, at least for this conversation between her and Corwin, I think was very well written, very well put together, puts a suggestion in his mind that is going to pay off literally at the end of that chapter.
After Julian leaves, right?
After Julian, yeah.
yeah. So yeah, they're all the other ones are sitting around in another room talking about like, hey, what the fuck? Who which one of us did this? And they're all like talking about it. And then Gerard's like, well, I'm tired. I'm going to bed. Now y'all can talk about me. And then Fiona's like, okay, let's talk about him.
Let's talk about him. Yeah, that was good.
And she got, and to be honest, the whole time, like Julian's like, I think Fiona did it. Because they're like, they're constantly using like male coded language when they talk about like whoever stabbed Brand and whoever he is, and then he was like, or she,
Yeah.
like, and then pointedly look at Fiona like,
yeah. Well, I
he's-
think I think part of it could be an actual, I believe it's her, but I think also there is a reason for him to suspect her past just who had opportunity.
yeah.
His everybody had opportunity. His is suggestive of a motive.
Yeah. Yeah, because Julian has like some of the most motive that we know of right now. Like we are conditioned through the way him and Corwin don't get along through these past 2 books. We're conditioned to don't trust Julian. Julian's a piece of shit. He's a bad dude. He's the one that will knife any of us. So like Jay said, Fiona like plants that seed even stronger.
When he goes, or her, he goes, sister, you seem possessed of a super abundance of naivete suddenly. Her gaze locked with Julian's own. A pair of icebergs reflected frigid infinities.
Yeah. Like I said, the prose is really good. This one. Yeah. This is also where they all forswear.
Mm-hmm.
They agree that when they find out who did it, that they agree to put them in exile, except that, was it Gerard or Julian?
Julian says if anyone's personally responsible for Kane's death, you know, if he wasn't personally the person who had Kane killed or killed Kane, I'll agree to exile. Otherwise, I'm going to kill them. So they all like swear because they're all trying to figure it out, and they're all like, okay, well, if we just like all forswear, and that actually like that means a very strong thing for all of them. If they actually forswear, then like, okay, that means that the person doesn't have to fear dying at the very least. You know, they know you're just going to be sent away from Amber.
Mm-hmm.
And nobody still like perks up and says, hey, I did it. Send me into exile.
Then we go to a flashback.
They talk about a lot of shit.
They talk about a lot of things in the past tense on that one, as far as this and I think what it really kind of establishes is more so Corwin now has a better idea of the playing field. Like the first
there is
two books,
also Fiona like telling Corwin more about the Jewel of Judgment.
Yeah.
Talking about how, hey, if you wear it too long, it's not good for you. Like it drains you. And they even think back about how bad Eric looked, and then Corwin's like, well, it was probably because he was wearing the jewel for a very long time. It takes your like things literally will, if you wear it too long, things will literally start slowing down around you because it like fucks with your metabolism and sense of time.
Which is established here, and we'll go ahead and move on, and then pays off shortly thereafter.
Yeah,
with Ganelin and Corwin are going basically.
They all eventually like, okay, I'm going to bed.
Yeah.
Like each one of them, and Ganelin and Corwin.
Ganelin has to tell Corwin, "Hey man, slow down. What the hell?" It's like you're going. Oh, okay. Oh no, my bad. I'm just. And then he gets into his room and is immediately attacked.
Yeah, somebody tries to knife him.
Somebody immediately, like, straight up tries to murk him.
But luckily, because his perception of time is so fucked up now.
Yes, but because he's fully in tune with the Matrix and his Neo, he only gets stabbed a little bit.
Yeah.
And then he wakes up in his bed on Earth.
Yeah.
Hello, next chapter.
Well, shit.
Many are the times I've awakened, sometimes shaking, always afraid, from the dream that I occupied my old cell, blind once more in the dungeons beneath Amber. That's how chapter 7 starts.
It's very nice and very nice end to start for 7 to 8. I want to speed through this chapter a little bit because I want to get to the actual important part about this chapter. So Corwin wakes up, he's bleeding, he stuffs himself with bed linens to keep from dying, and then he goes outside and it's fucking cold out, and he's got a gut wound.
He crawls outside.
Yeah, that is true. And like cars pass him and like everything's going on, and then all of a sudden a car stops and door opens up and goes, "Carl, Bill, ain't seen you in years. What the fuck happened to you? Can you get me to a hospital?" Okay, there you go. There's holy shit, what the fuck?
Good old Bill.
Good old Bill. I love Bill.
Yeah,
Bill's just a genuine good dude.
Yeah.
And he's got grandkids. And his friend Carl hadn't seen him in years, and he looks just the same.
Decides to stop and say hi.
But just passes through. You know, it wasn't even stop to say hi. He found him bleeding on the side of a road.
Yeah.
It's like, oh, we'll get you to the hospital.
Old Carl.
Get him to the hospital, and he's fucked up because that blade got him deep, but not deep enough to kill him. And shit's going on. It's like, while I'm here, I need to get that police report. Well, you know, it's like shit. And Bill's somewhere off the distance. He probably needs that police report. Thank God I did that years ago. It's like, anyway.
Bill's like, hey, I knew you were up to some shady shit.
Yeah.
Because you just disappear and come back.
Yeah, you just disappear.
Like,
and you're a military guy. And so no, I totally understand it.
And it was like, yeah, sure.
Are you human?
Yeah.
That's honestly
later.
my favorite part. Yeah,
I think so.
So they
maybe.
they give him a whole bunch of shit with and this is where he finally starts to remember, because his problem was like he could the pattern brought when he first walked the pattern, he remembers all the shit that happened in the past, except for what happened immediately before and immediately after the crash.
Right.
That fucked him up bad enough that he's got amnesia about that area. So this is actually a good way to fill in an interesting way to fill in. It's jarring. It's inelegant. I will say that because, oh shit, now he's just on Earth again. What the fuck? But this is actually a better, a little bit better, a more interesting way, because at least you introduce this kind of, in a way, boring character, but actually kind of interesting character, because he's just a normal dude, and you don't see many of those in this.
A normal dude
books.
that like cared for Corwin.
Yeah.
Like it's like respected him enough that like he kept like an eye and ear to him all those years. Which I get. My favorite part is like last time he'd seen him, like he's gray now. He's got grandkids.
Yeah.
I love it. Where is over there anyway? Where did you come from? Where have you been? I travel a lot.
I travel a lot. He does. It's great.
Yeah.
I love the dialogue. I absolutely love
So
the
they
dialogue.
get to a hospital, and the doctor's giving them shit because it's like, oh, you should be dead.
You should be dead. You shouldn't
What
be
the
walking
fuck?
right now. What the
How
fuck,
am I having
man?
a conversation?
And he
with
also
you?
starts remembering, like, oh, I was institutionalized. My Eric came and had me fucking in the crazy house.
Yeah.
And he was like, hey, did you ever do anything? He was like, yeah. Bill was like, yeah, I just so happened to have.
Yeah, hey, no. So I've got all your file.
Yeah.
Hello, my name is Bill Plot Contrivance.
Yes.
I'm French. Anyway, no. But that could be seen as a contrivance. I just like I like the fact that
It was
Zelazny did like the page and a half at least of building up Bill as like an old friend.
Introducing the character is again, it's a little bit jarring because of you just wake up in
Right.
on Earth. The Jewel of Judgment got dropped into a compost heap to hide because he couldn't have anywhere else to hide it.
Yeah.
He didn't know if anybody was like coming through or anything or anything like that.
Absolutely.
Um,
It's kind of a big thing.
Carl, what kind of trouble are you in?
Don't worry about that. So tell me about the parts of my life I don't remember after I've been gone. And again, I love it. Again, we're filling in holes that you may not have wanted to necessarily get filled in, but now that they're filled in, it paints a better picture of the family side of things. My favorite part about it is the fact that Brand did CPR on Corwin.
Yeah, we find
to
out
keep him alive.
that Brand was the one who pulled Corwin out of the, because he like crashed into like a pond or something.
Right.
And Brand was the one who pulled him out.
Yeah, on a horse.
On a
But
horse.
there was a
and
horse
then he just
involved.
disappeared.
And then shortly thereafter, he was captured by, and we'll get to that in a moment.
Yeah.
But yeah, and just I love that scene. There's the scene with Bill interacting with the Trumps. It's like, oh, it's family heirloom and all this stuff. Why does this one look like you and all that?
Yeah.
And then he gets to the, are you human? And it's
Yeah.
like, and I like he's aware there's something wrong, but he respects the man enough that, okay, you know what? Thank you. This is probably the last time we're ever going to see one another. If you were a great friend, thank you, and you have a good day in life. I love that scene.
It's a pretty wholesome moment.
I love that. It's 100% wholesome. For Corwin, that's not possible.
Yeah.
And it just so happened there. And you get the notion of why he softened up while living on Earth.
Yeah.
Like, because he had people like this in his life.
It was just after the state patrolman left, late afternoon. I was lying there feeling better that I felt better. Lying there reflecting on the hazards involved in living in Amber. Brand and I were both laid up by the means of the family's favorite weapon. I wonder who had gotten it worse. And so this is like, Corwin and Brand.
Well, so he's finally
him kind of
feeling okay enough to travel. So he starts traveling through. He goes back to Amber with through.
Well, I love about
truck.
that. Random's like,
Yeah.
hey man, you're not answering the door. What the hell's going on? Hey, I need you to pull me through. I'm on Earth. Wait,
Yeah.
what? It's like, don't ask. It's just the way it is.
Just help.
Yeah.
Yeah, pull me through. Be ginger about it because I got a gaping fucking stab wound, bro.
Yeah. So Gerard's like, hey, Random's like, hey, Gerard said that Brand wants to speak to you and only you. So he laboriously walks down there. He's trying not, Corwin is trying this whole time to not show any kind of like weakness. Even though it's probably pretty obvious that he is like, hey, dude, you're walking like you've been stabbed in the gut. But he's trying very hard, and they get down to and talk to Bran. Gerard's a little pissy that Bran's like, hey, I want to speak to him alone. And Gerard's like, well, fuck you. I'm not doing that.
He could have been one of the guys that tried to kill you.
Did he nurse you to health?
I almost threw him off a mountain.
Yeah.
I'm Gerard. That's how I see Gerard. Just
So
like
and now we get to the biggest tell don't show moment where Bran just basically lays out the entirety of everything that's happened in the shadows.
He gives the timeline of
that
it.
I dare
even
to say
Corwin-
he tells you everything about everywhere all at once.
Yeah, pretty much.
Yeah.
Like so it was Brand, Blaze, and
Fiona.
who basically conspired to put was it Blaze, right?
Blaze on the throne.
Blaze on the throne.
Well, let's plot a few things out here. So, and one of the things about
let's unpack this fucking onion.
Let's untangle this web of shit.
I'm gonna try to put some bullet points to this. I think it was they were called the Redheads. The Redheads were taught by Dworkin, who was the guy who created the Trumps and like basically all the mystical and magical things that Oberyn used and kind of gave them their power over reality.
Yeah.
And they studied more specifically under Dworkin than anything else. So the thing about the triumvirate of Blaze, Brand, and Fiona is that they're able to manipulate shadow, or could reasonably be thought of as being able to manipulate shadow better than the other brothers and sisters.
And they knew tricks.
And they knew. And
like again, Bran could contact them without the trumps.
Right.
It was weak, but he could still do it.
Yeah.
They were like, you can't do
simple
that.
playing card, not a trump.
Yeah. And then also, like, it's posited, and I'm super spoiler, you're going to find out is the truth. They were able to go further into shadow and liked going further into shadow than any of the other family members.
Yeah.
That's one of the reasons why Brand had to be put in that tower almost towards the end of. I will save that little portion there, my bad. But then on the other side, you have what I would kind of like to call the more physical and martial representation of Amber, which would have been Eric, Julian, and Cain.
Yeah.
And that's your other triumvirate, and the two are working at odds one another.
Yeah.
Benedict's out of play because he had just said, fuck it, I don't care.
Yeah.
Gerard truly is a defender of the realm and of the family, and he's not going to come in on one side or the other.
Yeah.
Except for the fact where he thinks it's going to hurt Amber, and that's the reason why he's fighting on Eric's side in the first book.
Yeah.
You have the sisters, which, like, other than Fiona, which you perfectly said, they're just there.
Yeah.
They're just there, and that left Corwin. And the reason why the Corwin thing is so important is because there's a meeting of the family with Corwin kind of off, and where Oberon says to, I want Corwin to succeed me.
Yeah.
And that breaks Eric. And that's the reason why Eric fucking hated Corwin.
Yeah. And they go through I really don't think that we need to go through it, but there's a part later on where like they paint, like Corwin painstakingly lays out like how everybody is perfectly related and what the line of and the perfect line of succession
and whose
is.
mothers and
and
things
why
like that.
it's so well and saying it's the perfect line of succession is still because it's so goddamn Oberon was a messy bitch. Like Jesus Christ, he put his dick in anything.
That is very true.
And because he
fucking
could bend
ridiculous.
reality, yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, there you go.
Yeah, he would just go off into shadow and bring back another bitch, and it's just like, well, this is your new mommy.
Yeah. Like Benedict is the oldest living sibling. You also have two siblings that are dead. You had the oldest living sibling from the first wife, and then now it goes down there. You're right. It
But
goes
then
down
Eric's
the line.
mom, he forswore that marriage, so now Eric is kind of the oldest, but then is one of the oldest. But he also that was a legit marriage that was undone.
Yeah.
So. Again, we don't.
But ultimately, Oberyn says to the family, like directly,
that doesn't matter.
Corwin is my successor.
Yeah,
and then once he's out of it, then there's the question.
Yeah, then it's like super messy.
Because then you have Eric, who was looked over, versus Blaze and his triumvirate, which wasn't looked over so much as was it should never have gotten to them in the first place.
Yeah.
So their right is, well, they were passed over, it now goes to us, and Benedict doesn't want it. So this is where these two kind of shaped up with one another. The notion, Eric knew that Corwin was alive and was using Flora to basically keep him hidden on Earth.
Yeah.
And to keep him out of the game, because that's the one piece of the game that if he showed back up, it could totally throw everything off.
It topples his plans.
And then Brand found out, who's on the complete opposite side of him, and that's where the real the real kind of conflict for the family where it flared up, and that's the reason why you had Blaze versus Eric, and the fact Corwin comes in on his side. Does Corwin come in on even then? Like, because of the way the family is, people are questioning: is Corwin on Blaze's side for Blaze, or is Corwin on Blaze's side for Corwin?
Yeah.
The whole thing is just dirty and messy, and it's because Oberon just couldn't stop.
Yeah. They also go they constantly talk about how it was actually really dumb of Eric to crown himself. That was a really bad move.
Right.
Because it was thought of maybe in the first book that the darkness that had been happening in Amber was because of Corwin's curse when he put the crown on his head.
Yeah.
But it also could have been that there is still a standing king.
Yeah.
Oberon is out there.
Yeah.
And for you to take that crown without him being gone, you might have upset the balance. So there's all these things that are kind of in play now.
So anyway, we find out that that Brand's triumvirate, they are responsible for getting rid of Oberon. We don't know exactly what they did, and at this point it's not super clear who they made deals with, but they talk about, but it's pretty much, they talk about earlier hey, it's very possible that when they didn't know anything that was going on, when they were trying to figure out still what was going on, when Bran was still almost dying, they were well, it could very well be that somebody has allied themselves with a faction that they couldn't fully control, that was more powerful than they could think of, and it's caused things to happen that that got out of hand. That's basically what happened. They made they talk about chaos towards the end, right?
Yeah. Or no, in Tiernan Oath they mentioned that part.
Speaking of that, we get to chapter 10. And this is my favorite opening of any of the chapters.
Before we get to the opening of 10, because I know you want that.
Yeah.
What I love about the end of 9 is it's I have to tell you all of these things, and then nothing else is mentioned because they go straight into 10.
Right. Yeah, they tell them basically, just really quick to wrap up everything that he tells him is they got rid of Dad. Then they were going to. Then they put out feelers. Then Bran put out feelers to Julian. Was it, or was it Cain? He knew he had to put up to one. He put them out to one of them.
I think he tried to do with both brothers, but he focused on. But then Cain sided directly with Eric.
He put feelers out. They didn't know anything about the other two, but he kind of exposed himself to kind of put feelers out to one of them to ally with them, so then that they could have Blaze take the throne, and that backfires, and then Bran he kind of changes his mind, right, and figures out and finds out about Corwin, doesn't he?
Yeah, no, when he found out about Corwin, that changed his outlook on things.
Yeah, because he's we're doing this because Corwin's out of the picture, and we think we have, he has as much right as Eric does.
Yeah.
So he changes his mind, and then when the other two find out about it, then they imprison him basically.
Yeah, and Blaze and Fiona's and you also now get the note because it's left as an open hanger. Did Blaze die when he fell off Mount Culver?
Yeah.
And even though that Corwin, good God, the main protagonist of the entire series, and I can't remember his name. When Corwin threw him his trumps, there was no whether or not maybe he didn't even need the trumps.
Yeah.
Because if they work with the shadow that well, it's this question now that going into these next two books,
right?
We have to think Blaze is showing up in some way.
They also find out that Fiona, she's booked it. Julian, he's booked it.
Yeah.
They're not there. So
the only two active members of both triumvirates have both skedaddled to wherever they're skedaddling to.
And then he goes. Corwin's like, well, shouldn't I go after her? And Brandon's like, well, to hell with her for now. You've got bigger problems. You had better sit down. So I did.
Yeah, but I want to kill her now.
No. And then chapter 10 starts. So that's how chapter 9 ended. Chapter 10, Jody, please.
A raft of moonbeams, the ghostly torchlight like fires in a black and white film. A fine filament of mist. I leaned upon the rail. I looked across the world. Utter silence held the night. The dream-drenched city, the entire universe from here, distant things, the sea, Amber, Arden, Garneth, the lighthouse of Cabra, the grove of the unicorn, my tomb atop Culver. Silent, far below, yet clear, distinct, a god's eye view, I'd say. Or that of a soul cut loose, drifting high in the middle of the night. And then it just keeps going with cool shit.
So now, like...
You go from, hey, there's some shit you need to do, to... The only thing I can think of is while you were reading that, Carry On My Wayward Son was in the back of my head.
The last couple of chapters of this book are so frustrating because for three and 4/5 of a book, you have been like very matter of fact, like poignant. You've gotten us into a specific state, and now you go super fucking abstract.
This is like so Lovecraft, because right after that line, he says, "I had come to a place where ghosts play at being ghosts."
Yeah, it's like, and to be honest, I was kind of tired when I read these last two chapters, so it was hard to focus. But this did.
They're in Tirnanoth.
Yeah,
they're in fucking Tirnanoth.
Yeah,
out of a clear blue fucking sky.
Yeah, it's like, well,
literally,
they have a problem, like, because these are like super short. He has a problem, and I think this is mainly the reason for it, because it's so short. They'll just introduce things that we have never heard before. Is like, okay, there's a city in the sky that's on moonbeams.
There's a city of death in the sky that exists only at night because sun dissolves it. And it is so high up, you can see all of reality, which is one of the reasons why you have him, like, where he can see the Black Road going from Amber all the way into the Courts of Chaos. And this is where the Courts of Chaos part goes in. And again, in the back of your head, to me, he's putting just a droplet of a seed down to go, the redheads went further than anybody into deeper, further away from Amber than anybody. Mm-hmm. And we know Fiona's a part of that group. Is Fiona sitting in the Courts of Chaos, willingly or unwillingly, because she made a deal with them? Mm-hmm. Is it possible? So again, they're these setups for it, which if it wasn't so abstract, I think you could appreciate it more. And I'm actually speaking to Brady and you. I think you could appreciate it more if it wasn't so abstract. And I can agree with you, because after, like, with the exception of Bran's story in chapter 2, again, it's like we went to here, we went to here, we went to here. Yeah. And everything follows a kind of logical progression. Yeah. As soon as you hit the Tirnanoth chapter, you are just stop. Yeah, you are going to have to digest a lot of fucking metaphor.
It gets abstract, and it gets very stream of conscious.
Yes,
very.
Which, if I haven't, that can be very frustrating for me, because if that's how the book hasn't been, if you just all of a sudden switch to that, especially when there was nothing in the last chapter that was giving me the hint that was going to be the switch.
If you're dealing with some people that can play with reality, how do you deal with people who can play with reality, but then also have to accept that death is something they can't really broach? For instance, the girl from Avalon that I read this in the 90s in the St. Martin High School library over the course of a year and a half, and I can never remember her name in particular. But
Dara,
not Dara, the
Lorraine.
one Lorraine. He meets the ghost of Lorraine up there, and she tells him a history of them that isn't true. Yeah, but the dead don't live history the way we might necessarily, and so that's the setup for it. Because later at the end of Tirnanoth, he meets Dara, but not Dara. Yeah, and Benedict with a weird, creepy, for lack of a better term, Zonai arm from fucking Breath of the Wild, from Tears of the Kingdom. It's like,
Yeah.
why does he have this arm? And why was he able to take it with him?
Yeah.
It's so weird. It's so weird.
With Dara sitting on the throne in Amber.
With Dara sitting on the throne of Amber.
Yeah, it's revealed
except
that, like-
it's not. Because
Yeah.
she's the granddaughter of a demon and Benedict.
Yeah.
Which then is that the reason why Benedict stayed away from the throne?
I have no
Because
fucking
of
idea.
what it would eventually have to be on the throne.
We
in
also
Amber.
find out that his sword, because it was forged in moonlight,
Yeah.
can actually
has special properties.
Yes.
can actually like he has like a fight with it. Like
He has a fight with Benedict.
with
And,
Benedict.
Ghost Benedict.
and then as the
Yeah.
sun's coming up and Tyrnanoth is just disappearing, not Brand, excuse
Random.
me, Random
Random.
says, "Motherfucker, let's go!"
Random for the save.
Yeah.
It's like,
Yeah.
he starts falling and Random is like zoink and just boom.
Yeah.
But he's able to keep Benedict, not Benedict, question marks,
Arm?
weirdo demon arm.
Yeah.
Yeah, he takes his arm. I don't.
There's a metaphor there because Benedict has no arm,
Yeah.
but who knows?
Um.
Find out in book.
11
Question
starts pretty cool, and because it starts because and frying pans without fires are often far between. Oh, there was also a really cool line that I had mentioned to Jay, where further back in the book where Corwin's trying to figure things out, and he's like, every time I feel like I make a move, I feel like it's still pawn to king e5. And I was like, oh, what the fuck does that mean? Like, I had to actually look up several like words and shit from this, which is actually which was actually pretty cool for me. But like, that's like one of the main, like one of the very famous opening moves in chess. So he's saying like everything that I feel like I'm doing is just literally an opening move. And it's actually a very aggressive opening move. It's like the most aggressive opening move that you can make in chess, from what I have read. So that's actually pretty interesting. But yeah, so they come back from
Ghost World.
Ghost World.
They're on the top of Mount Cook because that's the only place to access it is at the
Yeah.
top of Mount Culver.
What the hell is that? I lopped it off the ghost of Benedict for reasons I do not understand.
Thank you, Corwin, because we don't either. I'm glad you're as confused as we
And
are.
they're like, well, maybe the real Benedict could use it.
yeah,
I appreciate how lost Corin is in all of this
Yeah.
because it's just how we are.
Yeah.
With more like with history, having read the, I think of the Prototype arm from Prototype, which was that game that released alongside
Infamous?
Infamous. Thank you. You know,
Yeah.
because I knew you'd played Second
Yeah.
Son, and that was why I was looking.
So
yeah,
this-
so that's in my head. I'm like, he's got the Prototype.
This
arm
is their
now.
Ganla is also with them, and this is where he goes into great detail of the line of succession. We can skip through that shit.
Yeah, because Random brought food.
Yeah.
Thank you, Random. Once
Thanks.
again, Random is the best brother.
Thanks, Random.
Yeah,
Like-
they didn't just say like Fiona and Brand were like they were taught by Dworkin. They just decided to pay more attention to him while the rest of them like just kind of futzed around. So that's why they know more about stuff.
See, I took that like you're right. It was everybody was in the same class. It's just like those three in particular would be like, "Hey, we need extra credit." Like that's what I thought
it's
of. in there.
basically like they just learned the basics of this is how trumps work and this is how you move through shadow and everything. And they were like, "Okay, we're good. We're going to go off and do our own thing." And they
They're
were
the
like,
ones that stayed
and they
after,
were like,
after
"No,
class was over.
let's learn all of this shit."
Yeah, Fiona and Bran paid attention to Dworkin while the rest of us were off indulging our assorted passions in shadow.
Yeah. So yeah, let's.
And
see.
so they start traveling down the mountain, and then things start being unfamiliar.
Yeah, things are changing as they are moving.
Yeah.
Things
As
start
if they're
getting
moving
even
As if they're moving
weirder.
through shadow, but they're not control. But
Yeah.
but
they're
Corwin
not
is
control
not
of it.
controlling
Yeah.
it.
Yeah, then we find out something very interesting.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Is this and then
But the first thing we find is, it's the unicorn
the
again.
unicorn.
Oh,
We
it's the sign
find
of
a
great
unicorn.
They can't get anybody on their trumps as well.
Yeah.
Like they keep trying everybody.
Yeah, the self. And this is where, again, I love Ganelin because he's so used to being out of sorts that because now they're out of sorts, he's kind of on the same level as them.
Yeah.
And so he's able to kind of take up a little bit of the lead and have the ideas. I thought that was such a great little hook there.
Yeah, they get to the Grove of the Unicorn, and they see the unicorn. The unicorn is also like their family symbol. So I guess they're Scottish.
Yeah, so they make it to the Grove of the Unicorn, but then they look out, and Ethan, I believe you were about to start talking about this.
Oh no, I was gonna mention the unicorn thing.
Okay, well, no, okay. So yeah, they make it to the Grove.
They make it to the Grove, and as they're walking by all, like the strange deconstructed reality, and they make it there, and
that's some of my favorite imagery, by the way, like the photo negative that he describes as far as how everything looks. I thought that was striking.
And they, Random and Corn, they recognize like, oh, this is where the pattern should be. This is where it should be. And they see it. They recognize it, but it's different almost.
They're like, this is where like the castle should be, and that's where the pattern is.
The pattern came into view, or a distorted negative of it. I leaned forward, and more light leaked around the edges of things. I leaned back. It went away, forward again, this time farther than before. The light spread, induced various shades of gray into the scheme of things. With my knees, then gently I suggested that star advance.
And as they keep moving on, they discover something. They discover that the amber they know
is not the amber they thought they knew.
It's not amber. It's not the true amber.
They are at the true pattern.
And they're at
right?
the true.
I don't know.
Yeah.
This last part confused the fuck out of me.
Yeah.
So I don't know.
No, it is very confusing because, like, wait, what the fuck? And again, it takes Ganelin to kind of fucking piece that together because, once again, he's now as out of sorts as they are, but without the impacted knowledge of this is how it's always been. Well, for him, it's never been this way, so he can think about it in other ways.
Yeah.
Yes, they've discovered that there is that amber, the amber they know is not the one true amber, and that they've somehow like met upon it.
Yeah.
Ganelin turned toward us. Do you understand? That is the real amber down there, isn't it? Yes, I said. Yes, it is. And that's how it ends.
That's how the book ends.
That would, and it's 25. Oh, there's only a year between this, so that's not too bad.
Well, and which makes sense because
if there was 3 years between this and the next book, I would have lost my fucking mind.
And again, spoilers for this. The opening of Hand of Oberon is literally right after.
Right after. Well, the crazy thing also, going back into the 70s for a minute, there's like, I don't know if you ever go thrifting for books, especially America's Thrift Store. You come across like a 70s fantasy book.
Yeah.
And by book, I mean novella. These were all novellas. There were so many novellas.
These are all 100 pages. So they're not like novels. They're
but
novellas.
you'll come across novellas, and they'll be like 150 pages or whatever. And it'll be like book 11 of 27 in the TriStar series.
Yeah.
They never made 27.
Yeah.
It just stopped at 15. And that happened to people all the time. So they were never probably invested when these books came out. Like, you never knew when these were going to end. Who knew there were only going to be 5? Certainly people in the 70s didn't know there was only going to be 5.
Yeah, I don't know. Yeah, I guess just final thoughts. Like it's this one was like the most frustrating of the three books. I have fairly enjoyed that. Like they haven't like grabbed me.
Right.
But this one didn't grab me worse than all the other ones.
This journey to take us to the next book took longer than it should have, or it felt like it took longer than it should have.
Yeah, this felt like this felt like a chapter of a book rather than an entire story. Which the other ones felt like there was a full story.
Yeah,
there. It just wasn't the entire tale.
Right.
But this one is the one that most felt like
filler.
Yeah, this felt like filler because it's mostly just playing catch up and done, and most of it is done inelegantly. Again, I like a lot of things in here.
Right,
but
I can appreciate the catch up aspect of it, like Random telling his story of like before the first book even began, answering questions that Corn had, like how did he end up in the hospital? What role does Flora play in all this?
Yeah.
Why was Eric watching him? I like that questions got answered, but it was done in a way that I did not enjoy.
I think
it was done too bluntly.
I think also
it was just like apologies.
for me, what it seems like is that he probably, maybe even while he was writing the outline or maybe writing the third book, probably realized like, okay, I have an idea where I want to go with this, and I want to end it at 5 or 6 books, or whatever. And he decided that he wanted to tie as many things up, finish so many arcs at one time to get all this like family shit done so that he could move on with the main thing that he wanted to tell for the rest of the series. And so it really feels like, if you look at it, after you read the next 2 books, the third chapter feels rushed but doesn't go anywhere, because he's trying to wrap up all these different like loopholes and tighten up the plot of, okay, why does the whole family hate Corwin? We got to wrap this shit up like as soon as possible so we can move on to the Oberon story.
And I think a lot of it has to do with the fact that this one was serialized over 3 issues. And if you're serializing it and you're just kind of making it up, oftentimes, like John Dies at the End, that was a book that started out as like serialized post, and that's why there's like pieces of it that feel kind of episodic, like it just kind of jumps to the next thing, and that's kind of what it feels like this one does sometimes. Right. So I think that has a little bit to do with it when you're writing it down like that, unless he had written it all before and then just got it separated into those 3. But I can see, but it feels like he was kind of writing it for those issues. So I don't know. Yeah, this one I didn't like as much as the other 2. But like I said, the prose is getting a lot more interesting.
You can tell it's his writing of the characters and dialogue's getting way better than originally. In the first 2 books. This is a series that a lot of fans really want them to make, like either a TV show or it would have to be a collection of movies, even for just the first 5. But Jay's like nodding and said like no.
Yeah,
they will try at some point.
There's a reason why I call it Denis Villeneuve's Dune and not Dune.
Right.
You cannot do Frank Herbert's Dune. They tried it as a movie, and while I feel it's cool and kind of 80s kitschy and it's David Lynch kitschy, it's not a good movie because you have to get 400 pages of a novel that is very dense and make it for an audience that isn't going to necessarily follow the 100-page appendix that's after the book. So Frank Herbert Dune is unfilmable. Now, if you take someone who respects it and knows it, Denis Villeneuve has done a very good job with part 1. I'm going to see part 2 the day CoastCon opens because it's opening the same day.
Yeah,
and I'm going to get one of those popcorn buckets and I'm going to take it directly into CoastCon with me, and it's going to be fun.
Hilarious.
That being said, this gets so crazy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There are things being said in this that, how best to put this? I have a vision in my head from what he explained Tyrannothe was that I don't think is what Zelazny was explaining. And I don't think it's what anybody else sees in their head when they do that. So to create a uniform version of that scene, in my opinion, and I could be desperately wrong about it, for enough people to say this is cool, I don't think it can happen. I don't think Amber can happen.
Well, there's a lot of things that are really difficult, if not impossible, to adapt. A lot of Lovecraftian stories are the same way. Like not necessarily the Cthulhu stories, but once you start getting into the Dreamland shit, that stuff gets wild. But
well, even then, like Lovecraft didn't explain anything, because if he explained it, you could hook it into your brain, and now it's knowable.
Right.
And the whole point of his horror was you can't fucking know it.
Right.
You can't understand it.
Right.
I mean, I haven't seen anything in this that I felt is unfilmable yet. But I also don't particularly care either way. This is not one that I'm looking at and it's like, oh, I would love to see this on screen.
Sure.
And it's because it just, like, I like it, but it just doesn't hook me.
Well, a lot of the what works for a book doesn't necessarily work for a TV show, I guess, or a movie. Like the inner narrative, there's so much inner narrative in the first 2 books. Like, that would be kind of hard to.
Well, yeah, they would have to do like narration, and you have to be careful with that.
Right.
It can be done. but yeah, I mean, this one was okay. It wasn't so bad that it was like I don't want to read the next book.
Right.
Well, thank God, because that's
but
a
with
whole
most
thing
of-
for us right now.
But with most of these, I'm just like glad that it's over.
I haven't given my opinion, and
I'm sorry.
in my usual contrarian way, this is one of my favorite books in the series. I thoroughly accept that some of this is, you really have to be able to deconstruct some of the shit in here. When he goes to metaphor, he goes deep into metaphor. I think that is akin to maybe a way of saying that when we get to those courts of chaos and when we get into those other things that are going to be unknowable and weird, he's preparing you for the things he's going to describe here. This is some of my favorite dialogue. This is some of my favorite description, particularly I said like the photo negative of the pattern and like things going to black and like hard black and hard white and then reversing and all things like that, and this notion of perception and belief. And I think what needs to be explained gets explained in here. I feel that there was at some point I don't say this book was a necessity, but the things that happened in this book for the Amber series had to happen, because if you kept all of these things kind of trailing,
Yeah.
it would have been too much to try to like.
Well, yeah.
Well, that's
I think of A Song of Ice and Fire. I think of that it's like there's so much of this stuff that is still out there. Does he have to pull it all together at once to end in these two books? And can George R.R. Martin do that? I think he's a good writer. I feel he can, but as of right now, we haven't seen that. In this one, I think he's doing so much, again, hole filling, and I would agree that sometimes it gets unnecessary. But without those holes filled, he's got to fill them eventually in some way, and they could have even been worse if he held it off further down the line. I outside, like right now of the three, this is second to Nine Princes and comes in for me well ahead of Guns of Avalon.
Yeah. I don't have a problem with like the revelations that happen in this, but they're just so bluntly done that it doesn't even feel like revelations. It just feels like, okay, well, this person is telling me this stuff. The brand stuff should have like been like a, oh my God, this is crazy. And I was just like, okay, yeah, he's just telling him. Okay, cool.
This is
This is
teenage
fine.
me, but that was my feeling when I was reading. But when that was teenage me back in the 90s reading that.
Yeah.
I don't know, maybe being a younger man, not having.
I mean, yeah,
not
reading
having,
something a long time ago is
Well,
as a younger person.
Well,
is-
then also, and not having the experience of just one life experience and two, the experience of other fantasy novels and fantasy media.
Yeah.
That might have been something that was in play there as well. For me, like, again, reading it again, I kind of recaptured a little bit of that wonder, but at the same time, I can thoroughly agree with you.
I think for me, I did like piggyback off what Brady's saying. For me, the reason why I feel that way is that it's at the beginning of book 3, at the beginning of Sign of the Unicorn, when you get to the part where we're trying to figure out what's going on, it's framed as a mystery. And then you're just told what happens.
yeah, that's a big deal.
It's framed as a mystery, and then they just explain it.
You have
It doesn't allow the readers to piece together
Right.
along with.
But I mean,
Yeah,
I think
there
a lot
was-
of that also has to do with he's not a mystery writer. He's a science fiction
Yeah.
fantasy writer, and so
I would argue then don't set it up as mystery. But you know,
yeah, he might not have known where he was going with it and just painted himself into a corner.
I haven't done any research into how he wrote these or
I
anything
think he
like
knew
that,
where
so
he was
I don't-
going with it. I don't think he knew how to
get there.
Yeah. And that's some of the trouble. You just mentioned him. That's some of the trouble Martin's had. He knows where he wants to go. He just doesn't know how to get there.
Right.
But I think with Martin, because those books are longer and because there's so much more, he's built up so much that, again, to kind of coalesce it into one.
Yeah, I think.
Yeah,
I think the
he's-
problem with this is like with these books being so short and being really just novellas, and I don't know exactly what the page count. There's something less than a novella. They might even be those things. Because I think novella is around 200 pages, but I could be wrong. If I'm wrong,
I
it's fine.
think you're correct.
But it's where you would have like a 300 page book. You could seed these
Flush
things,
out more.
these things in and sprinkle these revelations throughout, and then maybe, you know, later in the book have just like a bam hit you there. But it didn't feel like I was, you know, finally figuring out something that I had been craving. It just felt like, okay, this character is just telling him all the stuff. And they even go so far as to go. Corwin has an inner monologue where he's like, "Well, is he lying to me?" And then he goes, "I don't think he's." And he goes through all of the reasons why he's not lying to me. So you pretty much go, "Well, all the shit that he just said is true." And maybe later on that'll be something that kind of like pulls the rug out from under us. I don't know, but as of right now, I just all I can go by is what I know right now.
As opposed to like Nine Princes, where you know you have a main protagonist who has amnesia and he's discovering things, and you're discovering things with him along that way.
I think a lot of that spirit is also in this book because it's Corwin discovering things, like even something what ends up being just as banal as the Jewel of Judgment, like learning about this and like. Did Eric sabotage these instructions? Because
yeah, he did. We did. Yeah, he left out. Did he leave out the bad part,
or did he know?
Or did he
even know? There is a lot.
And I think Corwin even like reasons out that like no, he thought he would be the king. Why would he leave something out for someone who would be following after him?
But I think something that you said, Jody, with him. Compared to the first book, if y'all remember in the first, you know, go back and listen to that episode, I complained about how the way he just kind of, okay, he was amnesiac until he wasn't. Like he just, something deep in my brain just tells me that this is right. And that frustrated me. And I think that that might just be instinct. Like he's just not good at writing those kind of like mystery type things. And I don't know. I don't hate this book, but it's not like my favorite thing ever. And this is my least favorite of the three. But yeah, that's all I've got. We're gonna be here all night.
Yeah, we probably need to wrap this up.
No, I want to be here all night with my friends. Ethan, give us a plug.
Give everyone a plug. Whiskey and Wrestling.
We didn't.
I don't know what.
Did we get your opinion?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'm sorry. We've talked so fucking much.
Yeah, he kind of added to the chorus.
All right.
Our good friends, Jason Holder and Michael Hill, they have the podcast Whiskey and Wrestling. They drink a whiskey and then they complain about wrestling.
As do we all.
Sometimes they do MF Dooms.
Nice.
MF Dooms, a good episode, an informative episode that Jay was on.
Yes. Yes. Viewer discretion is advised.
Yes, heavy discretion. But no, they talk about news of wrestling, their personal takes. They heavily implore Tony Khan to have them be their writers and bookers. Who knows if he's actually gonna listen to them? Who knows? He probably doesn't listen to his own writers. But yeah,
he doesn't have any. It's just him.
Exactly.
He doesn't listen to himself. That's what happens when you have. Never mind. I really don't want Tony Khan to sue me.
Okay.
I would be the lucky one to get sued by Tony Khan eventually.
But no, check them out. Whiskey and Wrestling. All the good podcasts areas.
All the good podcast areas.
All the good podcast areas like Philadelphia, Montserrat Bay, Jody.
Fearology is a show that you can listen to on Spotify where I talk about horror movies and TV shows and other media. And soon I'll probably be talking about the horrors of a possible war from the Cold War era, maybe, because I like torturing myself and watching depressing movies about war. Fearology. Spotify.
Fearology. Brady.
Jay, you'll be happy to know that I am only in the 2% that on Goodreads that rate Sign of the Unicorn a 2-star.
Oh man. What are the other ratings?
What is it? 77% rated 4 stars and above.
Oh, nice. There you go.
I am in the vast minority. 0% rated a 1 star. So.
Well, I gotta get to trolling then. No, there we go.
Yeah. I would love to wherever these covers that are on Goodreads that they have for it are like 70s as fuck.
Oh,
I
yeah.
would love
Yes.
to find. I would love
Is
to
that
find.
is that your plug for this one, Goodreads?
Oh,
We could
no,
make it that way. Let's just make your plug Goodreads.
What's the other,
Goodreads.com. Silence your cell phones.
Silence your cell phones. This is the only other one that they haven't talked about that I know. Jared Hubbard and Kevin Sheldon talk about movies. They will have like a more current bent than most of the time what we talk about. Maybe one day this year we'll talk about like a super new movie. But yeah, check them out wherever you can get your podcasts. If you want to hear some white dudes talking about movies. If you like these white dudes talking about all our shit, you might like them too. Check them out.
Bearded Drums is a weekly podcast by Stephen Nelson II and our good friend Jarrett Taylor. They talk about drums from gear to gigs, actually with live performances of recorded equipment. I'm going to get that plug right one day, but today is not that day, and I don't think tomorrow will be either.
Probably
but
not.
that is Bearded Drums, available on all major podcasting avenues and as well as on YouTube.
The Completed Podcast, a Magic centric podcast hosted by Christopher Vega, Brandon Scott Tanner, and Brandon Smith. He actually swung by McNubbs tonight, so I got to see him.
Oh, that's cool.
They have a deep dive into competitive Magic, the state of deck metas, different formats of Magic, standard, modern, pioneer, things like that. They talk about their own personal experiences with the game, road trip stories, Outback Steakhouses, specifically in the state of Louisiana. They have amazing conversations with professional Magic players, Brendan Scott Tanner being a Pro Tour player. Give them a listen to the Completed Podcast.
McNarp Gaming in Goshen, Mississippi, where you can find stuff and things and stuff. They have new dice.
They have dice on sale.
They have dice on
They
sale.
have
yes.
new dice on sale.
I bought some hand-poured dice for half off.
Yes.
Come get your hand poured dice.
What was poured in them? We don't know.
We don't know.
Who
Some kind
knows?
of resin.
I hope it's
assume.
resin.
It could be resin.
It could be deck metas.
It could be the souls of the forgotten.
That's all I remember from the completed pocket was deck metas.
We all have. I have to say this real quick as a closer.
Okay.
So we all have this one book for the Amber series. It's called The Great Book of Amber. It was like $25 or whatever on Amazon. It's pretty awesome.
I remember paying that amount.
Unlike most books, this one doesn't have a foreword or a dedication or even an index to tell you what chapters are where or any of that kind of nonsense. But it has a pretty awesome description of the book on the back.
Well, no, the dedications are on the the page with the title of the book. It's like underneath the title name.
Whenever you get to a new page, there's a new dedication.
Oh, okay,
Yeah.
I got
But
you.
it just says it underneath the name of the book.
Yeah, there's a so Roger Zelazny's Chronicles, I should say, have earned their place as an all-time classics of imagination and literature. Now here are all 10 novels together in one magnificent omnibus volume. Witness the titanic battle for supremacy waged on Earth in the courts of chaos and on a magical world of mystery, adventure, and romance. Amber, the one true world. And now, the one great book.
It felt appropriate to get the intro in on that one as well. So there you go.
Jesus Christ.
There you go. Again, the intro can strike at any time, anywhere, anyhow.
The intro is the outro, is the
Intro's
midtro.
outro.
Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for stopping by and enjoying the ride this evening, morning, afternoon, or whenever you've caught us. Next time, we ain't exactly know, but we will prevent you. We will be preventing you.
We're not telling you in case something happens.
We're preventing
That
you
is
from
true.
knowing what we're
That
doing
is
until we
true.
do it. So there you go. So once more around the table, my name's James McCarthy.
My name's Ethan Skinner.
I've been Jody Rabbit.
I'm Brady Davis.
And that has been Travelers on the Omnibus. Goodbye. And you can just stay here for a little bit.
Oh,
Oh, this
okay.
is-
We're playing the outro.
Yeah.
The outro
Yeah.
music
There you go.
as we're still here.
Yeah, we're still here. Yeah. Wait a
I
minute.
can't remember what's the outro and the intro because I never listened to these.
There you go.
I haven't listened to the last season. I stopped
Mm-hmm.
because
Well, that's going to be a real seller.